Before I start the show, I want to shout out all 3 local Vancouver mountains. Seymour, Grouse, and Cypress are all open and rocking it for the 2025 season. Stoked. FNRad is presented by Flojoy water, which is purified by granite rocks. Flojoy, a true gift of nature, and Chris Roach. And Essential Toothpaste Tablets, travel-ready, eco-friendly toothpaste your taste buds will enjoy. Wired Snowboards factory in Vancouver builds high-quality custom snowboards for about the same price as other brands' regular boards. I've created several one-of-a-kind wired customs, including a Chase 162 that's seen hundreds of my best powder days. Get yourself a game-changing snowboard and join the Wired team with Devin Walsh, Sasha Daly, and many others. Wired Snowboards. For more information, go to wiredsnowboards.com. Fixed bindings are FNRad. The comfort, performance, and quality of fixed bindings stokes me out every time I snowboard. Their commitment to making bindings that work amazingly and give you no issues puts Fix ahead of other binding brands. It's just that simple. Buy Fix bindings at an authorized dealer or go to fixbindingco.com. Bluebird Coffee Tuning and Rentals in Squamish is the coolest new stop on your way to Whistler. Bluebird offers quality board tunes using state-of-the-art equipment, premium rentals for every level of rider with demos of Burton step-ons, and award-winning coffee and incredible smoothies. For a blend of expert knowledge, convenience, and lots of charm, stop by Bluebird in Squamish and get your board tuned at the newest mandatory stop on your way to Whistler. Pro Standard makes the grill mount the best mount for your Insta360 GoPro or DJI camera. It's a heat moldable mouth mount, tripod, hand grip, hook mount, bottle mount, wall mount, clamp mount, glove mount, and shoe mount, designed by snowboard legend Ken Ochenbach to get you the perfect angle for snowboarding, surfing, biking, and it'll replace 90% of your other mounts. Use code FNRAD to get 20 off your first order at prostandard.com. Anon snow goggles enhance and protect your vision with unmatched optical clarity. Anon's Magnatech quick lens change technology allows you to swap lenses with ease. All Anon goggles are engineered to deliver no fog days and pair perfectly with Anon helmets and MFI magnetic face masks. Get yourself the best goggles at an authorized Anon dealer near you. Support also comes from our friends at the Boardroom Snowboard Shop. Check out boardroomshop.com and use code FNRAD10 for 10% off regular priced items and FNRAD5 for 5% off sale items. 1910, the collaborative artworks of Jamie Lynn and Scofe. FNRAD 20 saves you 20% off at 1910.com. New Greens, the superfood green drink sourced from American farms. Use code FNRAD for 20% off at newgreens.com. I want to thank DeKind Snowboard outerwear, travel bags, and backpacks, Rip Curl's Anti-Series outerwear, and our friends at Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, and Cypress Mountain for their support. Mike Olson is back this week. This is the second part of a longer conversation. Mike's the founder of GNU Snowboards, co-founder of Lib Tech Snowboards, and an inventor whose groundbreaking ideas have shaped the way we ride. What's really inspiring is that he's on the autism spectrum, which gave him a hyper-focused perspective that helped him turn his visions into reality. His story is a powerful reminder that being different is often a superpower. To anyone out there with autism, kids with autism, or anyone who feels they don't quite fit the mold, this episode is for you. It's proof that your unique way of seeing the world can lead to FNRad things.
That one out done too? Almost. I might have to pop the Flojoy. I'm going to pee. It is. Mediterranean, and then Guanacaste, Costa Rica, and then Okinawa.
Yeah.
And then, is it Loma Linda? Or
I don't even
California,
know.
Just east of like LA, so Loma Linda, where all the Seventh-day Adventists live. They're vegetarian, but they have tight-knit communities.
Yeah.
They walk everywhere. They literally, they call it, you've seen the blue zone, right? The blue zone's where there's like 5 places in the world where they're the most centurions.
Yeah.
But one of them's Loma Linda, and you're like, wait, that's downwind of all that exhaust. Like,
Totally.
I was like, it's a concrete jungle. But they said that's like almost the whole population of that town is Seventh-day Adventists, and it's their diet, their social.
The community is a big piece. Yeah, I think that's the thing that's going to happen now with big data sets.
Yep.
Is that we're going to start to find out, like, you know, like there used to be. I was thinking about it on the way down. Like, it used to be a genius was like a guy like Einstein, smartest guy in the room. Newton, smartest guy in the room. But it's collaborative teams are going to outdo, you know, single smart dudes eventually. And big data sets are the thing that you need. Like, okay, so getting back to the drawing the 8-meter side cut on a 160. Does that happen?
Are we recording right now?
Yeah,
yeah. Cool.
Does that happen? Does that happen when
I'm gonna pop?
Pop it.
Flojoy.
Fucking do it, man.
Flojoy.
I love it. Chris Roach is one of those anomalies that when you see him snowboard.
Where's he live now?
He's in Grass Valley, same as always. And
one of our CNC cutting machines is it's called Autometrics from Grass Valley, California.
It's a great spot.
It's a great cutting machine.
It's
got a carbon gantry, and it's
that's amazing.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys that is like the family style. Like when I saw him and Ryder Roach coming down Bear Valley, I was like, wow, that's Chris Roach. Like I see him.
You can see him, yeah.
And that's his son's got his style. Just the way that they snowboard is incredible. Were you into that kind of stuff? Like with Tom, with, you know, like with Jamie, like, okay.
Yeah, which type of stuff?
Like, could you recognize like somebody's style and be like,
for sure,
that I want to do like that, I want to ride like that.
Surfing too, obviously.
Surfing
and snowboarding. Hey, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. You can tell. I can. Yeah, Pete and I are both the same way. That we can tell someone's style a mile away.
Yeah, that's sick.
We know exactly who it is. Like, I was down in California years after Henry Hester wasn't working for us anymore. I was down in La Jolla, staying at a place in La Jolla for a wedding, and I was on crutches, crutching down the beach in the sand, up towards the Scripps Pier, and from so far away, I'm looking. Literally, had not talked to Henry in a while, and I'm looking out, and there's like, I don't know, 30 California surfers in the water at Scripps Pier. And I'm so far away, and I was like, my brain just going, that's Henry Hester. I know Henry Hester. That's Henry surfing right now. I know it. His twin fin style. He used to be a pro surfer in the 70s. And anyway, I had just gotten my cast off, but my leg was all withered up. And I literally just threw my crutches, hopped out to the water and swam out. Right into the lineup. And Henry was like, whoa, like, what are you doing here? Like,
that is
he knew
amazing.
I had a broken leg.
That is amazing.
He knew I had a broken leg. So he's like, how are you out here? And anyway, his daughter ended up seeing me, and his daughter Nina, and I think she swam out with me too. Then it was like, anyway, it was pretty awesome.
That's so amazing.
I saw style from like so far away.
That's
it was incredible. Like, that's Henry.
Okay, here's a couple questions I would feel remiss not to get to. Matt Cummins.
Yep.
The idea of keeping Matt on the team and putting Matt on as your very first pro model guy for Lib Tech. I mean, to an outsider, it's an anomaly, right? To Devin Walsh, he's like, here's this guy whose board I see more than the guy in the magazines. I don't know anything about Matt.
Right.
Where did he come from? But definitely
there's a good story.
Yeah, let's hear this. Because I'm going to have Matt on the show as well.
Yeah, correct.
Obviously. And he's done a ton for snowboarding.
Oh, so much.
And his boards, like, I don't need to tell you. You already know.
And just what he's done for wax. The dudes, him and Brian Rushworth, his partner in One Ball, are awesome.
The Hermel, what's the guy? Hertel?
Hertel.
The Hertel guy has like honed in on One Ball J.
Right.
He told me that he believed that Matt drove down to California, went through the dumpster and got his secret formula. I was like, dude, I think that you're wrong. I'm pretty sure these guys came up with their wax.
From Pavones. There's a guy that lives in Pavones, an artist down there. And anyway, he does art all over the walls in Pavones. It's very beautiful art. But he years ago, he saw that I had a 1-ball leash and I had 1-ball wax, and I don't remember what he saw that I probably had a 1-ball shirt, but he's like, hey, he knew I was the snowboard guy. He knew I was a Lib Tech guy, but he's like, so you're friends with those guys? And I was like, yeah, they're awesome. And he's like, I'm going to sue those guys. And I was like,
it's the same guy. It's got to be the same guy.
No, this is an artist.
Totally different guy.
Reason altogether. Ready? He goes, they rip off my art. So this guy, I won't say his name, but he's it's an art style that a lot of people use. It's just the most beautiful, bubbly, it's not too far off Jamie Lynn art even. Well, anyway, some of the art on like 1-ball J, like wax, they'll have different logos, whatever. Anyway, this guy thought they were ripping off his art. And I told Matt and Brian Rushforth about this guy. And I think they knew who this guy was. Like, yeah, he's like the 5th or 6th guy that's called us. They all think that whichever the drawing was or art on wax or whatever on a label, they're like, we've had like so many people say it's theirs. They go, no, it's a girl from Tacoma. It's this girl we know that did it. But anyway, it's just kind of fun.
Unreal.
It's so funny when people are like, they're ripping me off.
Yeah. So you've invented a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't go around saying you invented it.
I don't even care. Yeah.
Right. I think if you invent something out of love of the thing, I mean, the cool guy thing to do is to not care. Right?
I really don't care.
Is there ever a time where something showed up where you go like, fuck, that's kind of mine, and that guy's claiming that he made it up? Or?
I got to think about that, because I'll start out by saying we always think the industry, starting years ago, is going to come out, do something, we get caught with our pants down, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh no, why didn't we, get caught? It's never happened. Where I was like, we used to think, what if we're the ones that go to the show like, oh no, we missed this trend.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's obviously with magnet traction, there was a few brands that did some mimicry of that. And
are you saying, is
the
there anything?
Magnet traction, and then
right,
banana, there was a bunch, but.
What about the banana like the old heavy tools with the double camber thing that they did?
Well, so the banana, the catches, it's what was patented is literally just a rocker between the feet.
Yeah.
What's specifically patented, it's all about the words.
Sure.
It's right between the feet and ends before it gets past the foot region. So it allows you to, when you depress it, right, take a board. The initial banana that we put on the market was rockered between the feet and then flat from the feet on out. And it's got to start. And it's got to start though. The rocker's got to end kind of before the foot area or within maybe halfway through the foot area, or it doesn't work for what we want to patent it or what we patent it for.
Sure.
So it fulcrums, when you stand on it on concrete, we made a pressure meter that tests the pressure even. Yeah. It ends up pushing up between your feet, right? Because you stand on it, it flattens it. So the pressure pushes up between your feet.
Yep.
So it essentially, not even essentially, it creates cambers outside of your feet.
Right.
It really does.
Right.
Because you press down and it's pressing up. So there's these cambers under your feet.
Yep.
Right?
I got you.
And so we made a pressure meter, and some of our banana boards have as much or more pressure than a camber board out on the ends.
That's crazy.
On concrete or on a hard surface. The second you put it in soft snow, slush, just anything softer than hard snow, all of a sudden you don't get all that pressure between your feet driving the ends in. It's a soft snow. Do you want camber? No. All of a sudden in soft snow, it builds a rocker like a surfboard into it. Yeah. On hard snow, it like the Magic BM that I ride. Before that was the Banana Magic. Like that one, you feel the ends on that on hard pack more than you'll feel a camber board's ends. It's ridiculous. Like the ends just drive into the snow, right? And I get on camber boards and go, these things are loose on the ends. Yeah. I literally would try camber boards and go, and it's funny because I just had conversations. I just saw Dave Subnewski this week. You know Dave, right?
Yep.
I was at the Bachelor of the Dirksen Derby a few weeks ago, and we rode the chair together, and he's like, I think he was on a Burton, but he's on a camber board, and he was like, yeah, I'm glad you guys have camber boards back. And it's kind of going off on rocker and banana.
Yeah.
Banana's different than normal rocker, but I was just giggling, right? But, cause I said, well, we still mainly make boards with banana on them. But what I want to say, but I was trying to be nice, is actually cambers for pussies, man. Like when you do a head-to-head test, the camber has less pressure on the ends than if you drive a real strong banana. It drives those ends into the snow. And so with like the Magic BM or a Banana Magic, I gave one to Joey McGuire, who's one of the gnarliest. He's like a football player, snowboarding.
Hell yeah.
He's got the biggest thighs, like gnarly.
Yeah.
He's
thick.
We were at Mission Ridge like when the Banana Magic was kind of semi-new to the market, and he tried one for the first time. And I remember halfway through the day, he's like, "Hey, I've been riding that, and that's all I used to ride back then." And he's like, "Dude." I mean, we knew him as the strongest dude we'd ever have on our boards. Yeah. He's like, my thighs are getting worked because it was kind of a good hard pack, but a good Mission Ridge hard pack, like real edgy, like dry snow that we don't get on this side of the mountains.
So he's saying he's getting forced on edge.
He's getting his hurt. Well, he's saying my legs hurt, man, because it holds an edge like no other board I've ever had. He goes, nothing gives. Like you press the tail doesn't go. The camber board. This thing just like.
Constant carve.
Yeah, he's like, my legs hurt. And I was like, dude, that's of course, because I wanted to say to Sanuski, like, dude, are you pushing out there on a camber board now? Because anyway, every time I try one, it's like, well, these are nimble and easy to ride. Yeah. The camber, but with the banana, you kind of need, like a Magic BM's got a higher banana than normal. Yeah. You kind of got to widen your stance. You got to kind of have a power stance. Mm-hmm. And you got to press hard on your both feet when you're turning. On a camber board, like picture Craig Kelly's famous for the Craig Kelly style of camber riding. He knocks his knees together. Yep. Well, you know why? We'd always look at those pictures and go, and this, of course, banana didn't exist then, but they had their quadratic side cuts where their side cuts the deepest between the feet, a little less outside of the feet, which is different than a lot of other people. A lot of people just had a straight up 8 meter or whatever, 9 meter, a radius. But in our case, we had what we called harmonic, where it was a little deeper side cut outside your feet and a little less between your feet. Because our theory is you can't get into that camber unless you knock your knees like Craig was doing. So he's trying to set his knees together to get used to that board. When we made our mapping machine that maps the pressure, we made a machine that had multi-measuring points to measure the pressure of the board. And then we put in the factory, you put a 75-pound weight on each binding area to mimic an average rider, 150-pound rider, right? Yeah. And that's how you test the bottom contour, right? To see how much pressure are you really putting on the snow if you're riding flat, right? So it translates somewhat to when you're on edge too, right? Because it's how much pressure is pressing down. And it was interesting. It was really interesting because a camber board, a normal camber board, you're not using the board between your feet. And Jeff Kemp and I, Jeff's our manager here, both of us ride Magic BMs, right? Or Banana Magics before that. And there's spots on, say at Stevens Pass on Daisy, where you come out of whether we're with our kids and on Daisy Run, or you come out of a couple of the face runs that are super steep through the trees, you end up on Daisy Run. And it's basically a cat track. And we always come back not riding together. We'd have the same stories like, hey, did you just like every skier that's pulling along, you just go whipping past them, and they're like going, what? And every snowboarder's pushing with their foot. Yeah. But then we'd try other boards that have camber. It's like, it's like then you're back with everyone else. But the pressure mapping, it just evens the pressure. The whole thing's even. On a camber board, you just ride a little board outside of your foot on each side.
So the banana, did that evolve outside of ever seeing any other funky rockery stuff?
It's the original one's right over here. So it's this is like number 3. So this was
you can totally see. Yeah. It's exaggerated.
This is from 1987.
Oh my God!
And this one's documented.
Well, hold on, 87?
Yeah.
Wait, are you not 97? Not 2007. 1987.
87.
You made
and what we have documentation. A guy named Ron Dahlquist. I believe it was Ron. Yeah, Ron Dahlquist, who he used to have like tons of cover. He's one of the most photographed guy, or his photos, like tons of covers of Powder Magazine, I think Ski Magazine. Windline hooked us up with back then with Ron. This is back in the Windline era with Ron Dahlquist.
My God.
And so he's actually got magazine published photos of of these boards, one of these, it was either 2 or 3, or the one that said 1, because I just used brown craft paper on top back then, but this is pre-preg. I didn't want to waste tops. I didn't want to waste ABS top sheets. And so I test, this has no side cut. I wanted to eliminate variables. So let's build a board with no side cut. Just put a crazy, huge double camber in it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big old...
It's insane.
A big rocker between the feet.
Yeah.
When you put this on the ground, the ends don't touch. But if you stand on it, it'll touch. This is definitely too extreme.
Way too extreme.
I took these to hood. I made like 3 or 4 of these extreme prototypes back in 1987. And then by, I believe it was 88, 89, we were putting them in some handmade boards where we toned it down to what they really are now. And a girl named Karen Parks, who was, she was one of my ski buddies. I used to teach skiing up at the pass, up at Snoqualmie. She taught for Powder Pigs. She started snowboarding. She was a freestyler, skier.
Yeah.
And she started snowboarding. It was like, she was one of the first skiers that jumped over as a pure skier that wasn't a surfer or skateboarder. She started riding our snowboards. She won the, they had a Northwest Circuit back then, but I think she was first place. I don't remember if it was moguls for sure, and it might have been something else, on one of these boards. So, but we were secretive about it. I showed it to Bob Barcy, who owned Bike Factory.
Yep.
And at the time, by the time he died, he loved us. But in the early days, he didn't really like, he'd call me Mr. GNU, and he didn't like the first snowboards I showed him that had the Kryptonix urethane around the tip, and they had ABS sidewalls and camber and no fins. And he'd always go, Mr. GNU, get that monoski out of here. He's like, we don't sell monoskis here. We sell snowboards. They have fins and I
love that.
He just didn't, he's like, that's too much tech. And I tried to explain to him carving, and he's like, we don't want to carve. We snowboard. Because I explained how their boards all skidded out. Like our first brochure shows how their tails skid.
Yeah.
Falling leaf with skidding tails. And he's like, when we want a snowboard, we want a snowboard. That means a skidding tail. And that was his thing to me always. Well, so a few years later, I showed him one with double camber, and he was like, Mr. GNU, get that thing out of here. By that point, he was selling my snowboards, but he didn't want that. He didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
And so he's the one that goes, don't do it. By then, he was nicer and leveling. He's like, the market wouldn't be ready for it. So we kind of shelved it. Karen won the Northwest Series on it. Pete and I were riding them. We shelved it. We were like, yeah, the market's not ready for it. And then the whole fiasco happened with not getting paid by Winline. And then these were the pre-preg ones we were making. So we made ones with real graphics and real side cuts.
So by the time you start Lib Tech, you've already experimented with double camber rocker boards, and which is crazy. You've cut holes in things, and you've that's early on, right?
Yeah. And
you never stopped doing this. This is something that you've always tinkered.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while something catches fire. I remember when I rode with you in 94, everybody was riding Doughboys. And you're going, like, they actually ride really well.
They ride really good.
Like, it's insane.
You know, there's a whole club in Japan now, the Trickstar people.
Yeah, it's so sick.
They just had a big get together.
Yes.
Where they all wore wigs.
Didn't they camp out here for a bit?
I think they did. Some of the,
Yeah.
They just had it like a few weeks ago.
Dude, that's so sick.
They sent us a few extra wigs. I saw one today.
So we did talk a little bit about, so Matt Cummings, where does he come from?
Oh, yeah. So this is fun. So Matt... So Matt, anyway, we shelved this and brought it back in the 2000s.
87. It comes back in 2004.
2004. Yeah. We brought it back in 2004.
Yeah, I got to ride one of the experimental ones, like the green and white, like that's up on the wall.
And to be honest, I mean, it's funny because the industry's small now, and I might as well tell you, get the scoop right now, the funny scoop.
Yeah.
So when we brought it out, the funny thing is, so I wrote a patent. A slope with a guy that was a patent attorney that was the cheapest one I could find because we didn't have, even when we were part of Quick, we didn't have a budget.
Yep.
And his name was Bob Jensen, an awesome dude. He was old, and when I was meeting with him over the banana patent, he even had blood coming out of his nose. I was like, "Are you having a heart attack?" But we didn't fast pace. We didn't want to. I didn't want to fast track the patent, right?
Yeah.
But I knew secretly I've got my own prior art. I already made them.
Yeah.
You can't patent anything with prior art. But we never put that on the market, so, right?
Shit, right.
But I was trying to do a chess move here because actually there was a company called Inca, Donald Stubblefield. There's a guy that he was a linebacker for Stanford, and and his dad owned Avia shoes, And he was an inventor, and he came back from college, wanted to learn to snowboard because he met a girl that he fell in love with that was a skier that said, hey, Donald, let's go skiing at Mount Bachelor, I believe. And he secretly didn't know how to ski, and snowboarding was just hitting big. And he's like, I'll tell her I'm a snowboarder. So he went down to practice, I guess, without her, and broke the board because he's a big dude, big linebacker. And so he's an engineer, and he's like, I need to make a board that can hold up to my weight. And he ended up going on the date, I think, with a rental board or a bought board. And I don't remember if he broke 1 or 2 boards, but he told me the whole story many years later over a fun legal thing in a good way. But he ends up going, you know what? I'm going to start building my own boards that will hold up for my weight. And when he started as an inventor himself, and his dad was an inventor, like I said, they owned Avia Shoes. I think they had just sold it to Reebok, if I remember right.
Wow.
They live in Lake Oswego, but he a really nice guy. He's a smart guy. He goes, I started looking at the boards and realized they should have double cambers. So he patented double camber.
Holy shit.
Back in, I forget what year it was, he patented double camber. He started coming to the trade shows with double camber, and people all laughed at him.
Right.
And he got, I believe J.D. Platt rode for him. Yeah, J.D. Platt did ride for him.
Is that where that Heavy Tools feather board with the thing?
I don't think so.
No.
His were pretty extreme. He had a patent on it. And it was a well-written patent because he's a smart guy.
Yep.
And anyway, I knew he had that. And and that one's similar to banana, but different, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden, and I knew basically if he went after anyone that knocked off him, I could go after him and show prior art.
Right.
Because I have it documented from Ron Dahlquist from like Powder Magazine or Ski Magazine, wherever. Mm-hmm. Might have been Snowboarder Magazine, but whatever Ron Dahlquist put that in.
87.
It was documented though.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been
documented.
Snowboarder.
I found an archive shot of it.
No way.
And of that, it was one
incredible.
of these. It was on a quiver of all our boards up against a bus. I'm like hanging out of the bus, kind of the old photo, and it's like 20 boards, but it's like, there it is, one of those. And you can see the double camber. You can zoom in and just see like,
that's insane.
I think it might even be the number 3. It might be that one.
That's pretty
But it's
epic.
documented. You have to have a time machine to go back to like whatever year, 1987 or 88, and put that in there. But anyway, so I knew the dominoes fall. I knew Donald Stubblefield had a double camber patent. When he came out with it on the market, people pretty much ignored him, and it was actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
I think it might have been, I don't remember, might have been JMO even, Chris Jameson, that finally tried one, and he was like, Mike, this race one that had a narrow nose and a really wide tail, he goes, everyone was laughing at it, he goes, it works so good, it's insane. And but yeah, J.D. Platt would always tell me, dude, they work really good.
Sure.
And J.D.'s a ripper, right? And KJ's a ripper. But anyway, and Donald was always really nice. And I liked Donald. I see him at the trade shows. I didn't know him well, but then years later, when we did the banana, we went to our first trade show. When we put the banana on the market, what brought that back to light, Travis Rice was shooting Art of Flight, I believe. I think it was Art of Flight. I think it was the first one where he did a step up. Might have been the second, but I think it was Art of Flight. And he had a step up jump where he wanted a really short board. Rozzy at the time, he had just come off riding for Rozzy, started riding for us.
Right.
He wanted a Lib Tech that was super short. They were making minis at Rozzy.
I remember.
With camber on it. And so I was living in the hospital at the time because my daughter was born with half a heart. So I remember coming back from being in the hospital, and Jeff Henderson, he's like the king of our surfboards right now, like all the CNC, and he's a ripper, skateboarder, surfer, snowboarder. He's like, yeah, he was the guy that was going to make this prototype snowboard.
For Travis.
Yeah, and so he rode it. He made the first one, and it came out a little stiff and high camber, and he went and rode it, and he goes, ooh, you feel like you're just riding on a pure camber. There's nothing outside of your feet.
Yeah.
You're kind of not touching.
Yeah.
There's almost nothing there. And anyway, we're just joking. We were just joking, and I still have, it was a quality control report, right?
Yeah.
With the dates on it and everything. I think it's 204, but it shows like, anyway, it's my little notepad. I'm squiggling while he's telling me that, and Stanley was in the meeting, and Jeff, we're all in the meeting, and anyway, I was like, dude, you know what we got to do? I go, we need to reverse it. We need to reverse it between the feet. Just thinking of this mini board,
Yeah.
for Travis. We're just reverse it for between the feet, which when we were doing this one, we were joking and we were calling it Rad Rocker. Like it was just a little joke, like
totally
Rad Rocker. And but I was like, it's gonna have Rad Rocker. And I literally at the time, Pete and Stephen Cobb were working on something for Travis called the Banana Hammock. Right, which kind of surf rocker.
I remember
it's got an overall rocker.
Yeah, it's in the movie, but it's also bowed out.
It's bowed out, and
it doesn't have side cut.
It's like a surfboard.
Yeah,
it's kind of like snowboards, like old sim snowboards, where it's got a micro amount of rocker between the feet, and then a stronger rocker outside of the feet.
Yeah,
and they were working on that one, which was called the Banana Hammock.
Yeah,
so that's where the word
it went to market too.
It did
right?
go to market.
Yeah,
and that's where, and I don't think it was on quite yet, but it was about to come onto the market. That was getting tested, and I know that a few people tested it in the summer. And
it was
like,
quirky. It was a weird.
Oh, it's good.
Thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
we put a warning on it because that reverse side cut.
Yeah, you couldn't turn it the way that you would turn a regular board.
You got to ski it kind of on hard pack. You got to stand there like you're a mogul skier, but on powder it worked great.
Yeah.
But so that's where the word banana, like in that meeting, I was like,
the first
hey,
one,
like
banana,
I was thinking like, hey, just as a joke, not we're gonna make it on the market, but for Travis, like, whoa, what if we just reverse it and call it the skate banana, right? And anyway, we still made ones with camber, a little less camber for his one shot he wanted, and then that next fall, that was in the spring of spring of 204. So then in the fall of 204. Pete had, he's like, hey, I think there was murmur that K2 is bringing back the gyrator.
Oh, wow.
As a rocker board, saying it was their anniversary. So what was their, I forget what they're calling it, the something anniversary. Now the irony is the first gyrator was one of the only camber boards. They got it wrong.
Yeah.
Because they were coming to the market with this just like a rocker.
Yeah.
Like, completely even from tip to tail.
Yeah, like the banana.
And calling it the redo of the original gyrator, which couldn't be further from the
not
truth.
Even close.
The original gyrator at the time was Avalanche, GNU, K2, because it was our board that we designed.
Yep.
It was the only board, the only three of us had camber on the market. The first gyrator was camber. It was the Dan Donnelly was riding for them.
Yep.
And Jason Kaznitz and Marcelo Dobas. So there was murmur that they were going to come out with something with rocker, and I know Pete was like, "Hey, murmurs off, the street in Hood from somebody." I don't think he saw it, maybe he did, but he'd heard about it. That murmur that they're gonna, because they had their skis, they were really starting to work with their rockered skis.
Yeah,
was that the spatula or the?
I don't know the name of the skis, but I know that like we started seeing them at Mount Hood. Like these freestyle kids were starting to actually even. They were pushing the park builds so that the builds were bigger for skis, had more whoop. So like when the first bananas came out, I kind of thought like, well, are we just copying these skis things? Because that's
right.
You'd see them getting on the lift with you, and from the front of their foot,
exactly,
it was like off the snow, the whole way.
So that's basically. With skis, there was a K2 had them, and I don't remember. Maybe Volant had a pair. Somebody else did too. Somebody did, but
it felt new. It didn't it wasn't what the traditional ski companies were doing.
Yeah,
it was something fringe, like
something
one or
fringe
two
for
models.
sure. Yeah. At that point, Pete and Cobb had been working on the banana hammock. And he heard those murmurs of K2's got something up their sleeve. Yeah. Little did we realize it was going to be like a novelty board that didn't work very well. It was like the gyrator, which once again, it looked nothing like the original gyrator.
No.
The graphic was, but they made it rockered. So we show up at the trade show. Pete's like, let's go now. Let's do a real one. Like let's do one that's like a 157. That's a real size. And let's do it with that contour and see if it works.
Yeah.
And so... he went up with a net, and they tested it like just a few weeks later or a week later. I mean, we made it pretty quick, and some of the people around here are like, "What? This looks crazy." The form block, like, definitely a lot of people looking at it going, "What the heck are you guys doing now?" Thought we were kind of losing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he went up to the mountain and he goes, "Hey, it's insane." I was standing right on the parking lot there on a rainy day, and he's calling me, going, "This thing's insane." And Annette, who's small, who's very particular on her boards, would never ride that wide of a board or that big of a board. He's like, she took a little run on it, and she even said feel something really good about
something
it, like
fun.
unreal.
It was such a fun thing because we're coming out of an era where everything was, for some reason, pro riders wanted their boards to be stiff as hell.
Yeah.
And their bindings to be stiff as hell and their boots to be stiff as hell. And this was the antidote of that.
Yeah, totally.
This was just like, you want a board that like reminds you of how fun snowboarding is?
Yeah.
Try out this fucking banana.
It was insane.
It was, and for a year at the shop,
yeah,
that's
insane.
all you could really sell.
So we went to the show then. It worked perfect. It's like since we built everything ourselves, it was like bing, bang, boom. The show was just within weeks or a month and change or whatever, And so we go to the show and magnet traction was just catching on. Magnet traction, people thought was a joke originally. It was we were 2 years into magnet traction,
right?
And people thought that was a joke. That's that's my phone. You want me to go turn it off?
Sure. You're reminding me. Magnet came out first.
Magnet came out first,
like
almost 2 years earlier. But people thought that was a joke.
Yeah.
Like people, and I get it. They should think it's a joke because it looks absurd. And so like,
but it worked. Then when you tried it, it worked on everything except for corrugated pipes.
So Dennis Nazari's one of our best long-term dealers ever, right?
Sure.
He's like been with us since
Salty Peaks,
and so
Salty 7.
We were having our meeting down at Park City the year we introduced that to our reps, and I guess I'm going to go back to it was the next year, the year after we introduced it. He came in and he'd ordered like 2, I guess, the first year we introduced it. The next year at our sales meeting, he came into our meeting and heard us all talking about it. And he's like, wait a second. He's usually on top of everything. Yeah. And he goes, wait a second. I got a couple from you, but I didn't sell them. He's like, I thought that was a joke. And it turns out they were mainly in North America. There weren't many that we sold the first year, but the shops that tried them loved them, right? So the ones that were into it just ordered more and more and more. And then others just ordered 1 or 2. Because he's like, oh, we never even tried them. We thought it was a joke. But when he heard all our reps talking about it, he's like, wait, this is real? And then he went out and rode it. And I think he didn't give it back. I think it was Paul Farrow's own board that he took. And he goes, I'm not giving this thing back. He loved it. But
that's what happened for me, too.
That's what happened. And so snap to like Olson 2 years later, nobody trusted magnet traction at first. But when we put out Banana year 1, everyone went, okay, this looks crazy again. Yeah. But we trust you. Yeah. And so they bought them instantly. So the first trade show we went to, K2 had their gyrator just a few booths down that looked nothing like ours. So of course people were like, hey, they got the same thing. We're like, no, it's totally different. That's just a radius rocker.
That was a couple of years of having to do
theirs
that.
Is just,
And then in the end, Never Summer win out on the patent thing?
What happened is we literally went to, it was our 3rd trade show before anyone else had it. Mm-hmm. Anything like us, mimicry of ours. And so what happened is the next year we got to the trade show thinking someone's going to be knocking it off. And we have a patent pending, but we were still part of Quick at that time. And Bob Jensen was just slow walking this patent. And it was literally like, I think I paid him $4,000 total for the patent, whereas other people pay. I mean, J.F. Pelchet told me how much he was paying when he was doing now, how much patents really cost. And I was like, wow. What? Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. Tens of thousands. Oh, God. I was like, we're only $4,000 into this, and we're part of Quicksilver. And we didn't really have a budget, Our budget was our own budget. They didn't give us money. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we get to that year 2. Still nobody has any mimicry. It was the 3rd year that all of a sudden, I believe it was Nitro maybe. Burton had one. Nitro had one.
Flying V or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I believe Arbor had one, and Never Summer had one. Yeah. So it was like 5 other brands or 4 other brands had it. Yeah. But anyway, then Never Summer about-faced and tried to claim they invented it. And I called one of the 2 brothers. I didn't know them. I tried to meet them for years and years at On Snows, but I never.
They're very similar to you. That they're kind of eking their own pathway over in this zone where everybody else in the industry kind of is telling them, whatever you're doing, don't do it. Like that's not the way to do it. You dummies. You do what we're doing. Go to ski companies and do this way. Right. And it's Tracy and his
Tim.
And his brother Tim.
Tracy and Tim.
And I've only really talked with Tracy. Yeah. And I got to tell you, sensible person. Yeah. And like, I like him a lot. I think
the catch is though that they tried to pull a double whammy on us. Because what they did is they then claimed that they invented it. So what they claimed that ours didn't have, or they claimed they invented it with rocker between the feet and
mustache camber, they called theirs.
And camber outside of
like
the feet.
Now
the catch is, other than the skate banana model, all of ours had that contour, including what you see from 1987, right?
Yeah.
And
didn't you call that C2 banana or something like that?
It's called C2 banana, but but all ours had it. They just didn't look at our boards. We had them at a trade show booth from year one. Yeah. Because we had TRSs already. We had not only skate bananas, we had TRSs. The TRSs had camber outside there. Yeah. And so we already had it. And when you patent something, you have to disclose. It's illegal to not disclose. You can't go in. You have to tell your patent examiner, hey, somebody else already has this. Right. And so anyway, I didn't know those guys, but we were still part of Quicksilver. And so shops were all going, hey, these guys are claiming they invented it with camera on the ends. Like, they got a new invention. Like, for all our shops, we're like, have you guys not read our brochure or looked at any of our boards? Like, they all have it other than the skate banana model. And even it had a little bit. Right? Like, by the rule of the letter of the law, it even had it, right? Right. And not only that, we had, all that matters is when you apply for a patent, right? Not when you get it. It's not who gets it first. That's a racetrack. You can pay money to expedite. It's who invents it first. Right. Right. You can't like, oh, I invented it 2 years later, but I paid more. So they expedited. We didn't. I was slow tracking because I didn't want to spend money. Right. So all of a sudden there's magazines and all these like things, the internet was kind of new-ish where people are all blogging and going, hey, well, Never Summer guys say they invented it. And all of a sudden Transworld, I think it was Transworld, calls up that says, hey, we want to do an interview with you and them because there's this controversy. And anyway, some controversy that we, to be honest, didn't care about, or was like, sure. It's like, come on, man, it's a no-brainer. Anyone that's looked at the boards, it's just look at them. Yeah. It's not like you don't even talk words. It's just like, look at our brochures. It's in our brochures, and we've been selling it for. By then it was year 3 we were going into selling it, so that you can't invent something that we've had out for that many years. And also, Nitro by that point had it, and Burton and Arbor, and we weren't going to enforce. Our theory was, to be honest, the secret, dirty secret was, I just didn't want someone like Jamie to come along. Big Five still sold snowboards. Right. This was adding new life to snowboarding. Something new. Something but if they all of a sudden came out at Big Five for
specialty shop.
These were our new high-end models.
Yeah.
If they all of a sudden came out at Big Five for $129, right, under Body Glove's name or whatever. No offense to Body Glove. Yeah, I met the owner of Body Glove. I hung out in the swimming pool in Cabo with him last year. Nice dude. Rad. No offense there, but if it came out with one of Jamie's names that he had, totally.
Crazy Creek, whatever you want, pick anything.
Yeah. Crazy Creek was made by Paulet. Right. And but if it came out and it's $129, so I ended up calling the guys from Never Summer when I first heard that they're claiming they're patenting it. Yeah. And I said, listen, it was either Tim or Tracy, I don't remember which. Super nice dude. Yeah. He was super nice, but I go, I just want to let you know. I go, we're not gonna, this might be your first patent, but it doesn't work this way. You can't patent something that somebody else has had on the market for multiple years. And I didn't tell him about the one from the 80s, right? Because in essence, that might negate our patent, his patent,
everybody's,
and Donald Stubblefield's patent.
Right.
It would negate his too. Right. It could. Right. And so what I did, I called Donald. At that point, I said, because anyway. The guys from Never Summer were a little grumpy, actually. They're basically like, they were kind of tight-lipped, like acting like no.
I think that they were claiming that it was something different,
and it wasn't
than what you had.
It wasn't.
That's what they were claiming. They were claiming that it was.
They did, but they couldn't say what it was because there wasn't anything. And if you read their patent, the guy that wrote the patent was a college friend of theirs, I believe. It was a friend of theirs that was now a lawyer. Sure. When we read it, we had a couple of one of our sales guy, a few people. We had a little dry erase board. I go, I read a lot of patents. I'm a nerd that way, but it's what's in the writing. It's not the pictures. It's not your drawings. It's what you claim in your claims. It's words. Sure. And so I read the claims, and what you learn is it's nothing like what they even sell. When you draw what they're claiming, it looks like a McDonald's golden arch. Yes. With one end higher than the other off the snow or off the concrete or whatever. One end's higher, one end's lower in the claims. Yeah. And in the middle, it comes to a point.
Right.
That's what it says.
Yep.
It's this.
Yep.
It's a sharp point that stabs in the snow like a cleat. That's what they patented. Nobody's ever going to make that. They've never made that.
Right.
That's what they have. They have nothing more than that. That's it. There's nothing
wild.
more.
Have you read Sherman's
I haven't.
patent? Oh,
No.
it was so.
Yeah.
I'm also a nerd, and Trent has that at the archives for the Vail Snow Sports Museum,
Right.
and he actually Sherman mentions the Wickland guys.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right on.
So most people don't know the Wickland story at all.
Exactly. But it's fantastic.
But it's absolutely incredible.
Everyone thought Jake was faking it. But
Everybody thought Jake was
that would
faking
have been the
it.
best AI footage ever. That AI didn't exist.
Yeah, absolutely. But then also on top of it, Sherman's patent mentions the Wickland boards.
Nice.
Isn't that great?
That's fantastic.
Isn't that like just that like end of the movie thing, like when you thought, oh no, Jake's making it up.
Right.
No, definitely not. Like, and you kind of knew he's not making it up. That Jake and Tom thing was sort of a circus sideshow, for snowboarding.
Yeah.
Like for the guys like you that have been in it through the whole way through, for it to start being this kind of like battle between Tom and Jake.
Yeah, they kind of always had it
was
out
weird,
for each other.
right?
And, it was weird.
Yeah.
It was actually really weird because basically most of the industry, almost everybody got along great. Like we got along great with Tom. We got along really, really good with Barfoot. Like my 19-year-old daughter was in my wife's belly down in Solulita. Chuck let Dina, my wife, and Fawn, her best friend, they're both pregnant, and for free let them stay at his condo down there. You know, I mean, Chuck's the best. Like,
he's the best.
My first trade show ever. The only way I got home, Fred and I had no money. Our first trade show in Long Beach. We sold our booth to a guy named Shady Brady. He was across from us. We were in the outskirts. It was a surf skate show, bikini show mainly. There was only a couple. Snow Tech was there.
Ernie,
Chuck was there, and Burton and Sims were there. But we had no money to get home. We spent all our money on gas to get down. We drove down there, set up our booth. We didn't have enough money to pay the union. David Nueva, I don't know if you know who that is.
Nope.
Famous surfer, one of the best longboarders in the history of surfing.
Rad.
Who I'd only read about. He worked for the show. We designed a booth that we pushed in on skateboards and popped out like an accordion, basically. But he helped us get around the union because they were going to charge us. David Nueva helped us push our booth in. Me and Fred are like, I can't believe this is David Nueva, one of the most famous surfers in history.
Rad.
Helped us with our booth.
Rad.
But to get home, we had to sell our booth. A guy across from us was called Shady Brady from Ukiah, California. He was just sitting on a chair the whole show. He was obviously laundering some money because he was selling hats. We didn't see any customers, but he's like from Ukiah.
Okay.
And he had pockets of cash.
Okay. Nice.
And he was like one of those Mendocino County guys. But at the end, we got to know him over the 3 days of the show. There's quiet moments, and we were in the quiet section of the show. And we were telling him, we don't even know how we're going to get home. And he's like, I'll buy everything on your, everything out of your booth, all the boards. We're like, are you going to snowboard? He's like, no, I'm not going to snowboard. I'll just give you money and buy everything here. And
that's
so
epic.
He gave us cash, so we had gas money to get home and for food. and then Chuck we brought our surfboards down in my little 2-wheel drive truck. And so Chuck then said, hey, he goes, I'd met him at the World Championships in 1984 at Soda Springs.
So, you were
that's
at
where I
Soda
made friends
Springs.
with Chuck. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
I made friends with Chuck. And
how did you do? Did you do all right? You were a
it's another long story there. It's
a
funny story, but my John Heine and I, this is one of the boards I built for the contest specifically, the Soviet Union board with the hammer, sickle, and star, and a peace sign up here.
I love it.
This is during the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
I was one of those guys that, they just teach you to fear the Soviet Union. And I loved hockey, right?
Yeah.
I loved hockey, and I loved everything about it. And I was like, well, why don't we just be friends with the Soviet Union? And so for fun, I was just kind of having fun, going, I'm going to make a board with a hammer, sickle, star, and then a peace sign in the nose.
Yeah.
That was my downhill board that I broke before the contest, like a few days early, or like a week or two earlier. Sorry, that metal's not supposed to be on it. That's to hold the board
together. That's to hold it all together.
Yeah, it's broken. But the board I used in the contest essentially looked like more or less like the purple one. But my friend John Heine and I were in college at the time, Highland Community College. We were both math majors, and we asked our professor if we could get a few days off, and our professor, math guy, was our counselor, but he gave us a few days off. We drove down in his mom's Volvo with a quarter pipe in the back. We built a quarter pipe that fit in the back of a Volvo.
Oh my God.
Little quarter pipe. Drove straight down after school, after college day, on a Thursday. I think we had to be there by Friday. And we slept in the parking lot of Soda Springs, and we woke up to, I believe it was Lester. Is it Quitzow, right?
Yeah, dude.
I believe it was Lester.
I met him.
It was Lester, or who was the other barfoot guy that reminds me of Lester? It might have been Lester. It was Lester. It was one of the barfoot guys. It was not Ken.
Yeah.
Because I met Ken at that show, but it was. I think it was Lester. Who's the other? There's a poster. I'm jumping, old barfoot poster. The other barfoot guy, the Achenbachs, Lester, and
oh shit!
Anyway, it may have been Lester.
Yeah,
Lester's a musician too.
He is.
But we woke up because we had the ramp outside of the Volvo.
Yeah,
it was just getting light. We had driven all night without sleeping. Our first day ever at Soda Springs. We looked up and went, "This is it. It's a dinky little mountain."
Yeah, I've been there.
But somebody was hitting our ramp. That's why we woke up. Click, 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 and it was.
Lester.
It was the crew. It was the crew from like Calgary.
Yeah.
And they saw our ramp. They got down, I guess, in the middle of the night after us. And
so sick.
And so anyway, and then I remember John Calkins, who's High Cascade. Nobody knew who anyone was, right?
Of course. Because nobody's anybody.
I remember seeing him with Varnays and like.
Oh wow.
I remember if it was Sims or a Burton, but he kind of had a fancy outfit compared to us.
Yeah.
We dressed like hippies for. We wanted to.
Yeah, the peace sign built into the board.
Yeah, I literally wore Bermudas. I wore Bermudas, and because we're going to California. It even snowed, and Bermudas, and I had this like custom Harvey wetsuits in Seattle. Kent made me this custom vest with a pink hood on it. So I'm like, I'm gonna wear like a vest and a hood and Bermudas. But anyway, I remember the Barfoot guys, some of the Sims guys, and all of the Burton guys all had speed suits.
Right.
And like in the slalom, you're going just not many miles an hour, but in the freestyle, you're really not, it's freestyle and they're all in speed suits, which is pretty funny. We were dressed like hippies.
Yeah.
John Heine even had a thrift shop hippie shirt with wings.
Oh, wow, dude. Like Aussie.
But yeah, anyway, we had longer boards than anyone there. And what I didn't know at the time what happened, Barfoot told me like several years later, Sims, day one, there was just trial, or it was just practice. It was spring snow, soft snow. We had more finnage than anyone, 5 fins on all of our boards.
Yeah.
We could beat, nobody would have been able to touch us, for sure. We would have won the slalom, done really well. The downhill is a free-for-all. The fins wouldn't help us there, but in freestyle too, we were both pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I was a skater. John wasn't a skater, but at that point anymore. But we both, in skiing, we were ski instructors, and we both loved giant helicopters, giant 360s, aerials and stuff. And we were really into invert ski moves, like hand plant inverts, like a backside hand plant in skating, like a Bobby Bell is.
Yeah.
Pull full pole extension. Like that was kind of our thing that we loved to do. Invert hand plants skiing and like skate moves skiing. So John wasn't a skater, but he knew all the skate moves, right?
Yeah.
And so we were like, we're gonna kill slalom for sure, and the half pipe freestyle, because the freestyle they made you come down the whole hill on the flats, hit a couple jumps, and then hit what was kind of called a half pipe, but it was barely a half. It's like a quarter pipe. Luckily, it favored goofy footers like John and I. So anyway, what I didn't know that Barfoot told me later, because we didn't know anybody, but they all called us the gravity hippies, which we didn't know, but it's a good name for us because we had long boards compared to everyone else, and we had hippie clothes on, and anyway, he said Sims wanted to ban us. They saw us riding, like, we got to ban those guys, because we were ripping.
You could ride.
The snow was soft. If it got hard, we were screwed.
Yeah.
It was soft. And everyone else everyone had fins. No one had, everybody had fins, but they had really shallow fins. Everyone else was just sliding tails. They were tail swears. We had never seen another snowboarder in our life. So when we saw them, we're just giggling. Like, these guys are horrible. Like, they're the worst, right? Like, I couldn't believe how pathetic they were. And we were surfers. We both built our own surfboards. We were both ski instructors, right? And like I said, I was a skateaholic. So we're just giggling how bad these guys are. We're like, we got this. This won't even be hard. This is going to be like, in our sleep, we're going to beat everyone. Other than downhill, which we have big fins, so they might be able to beat us in that.
Yeah.
But anyway, day one starts out the slalom. Sims had a meeting the day before and tried to ban us, or the morning of or night before. Barfoot told me that years later. He goes, no. He goes, I saved you guys. I didn't even know you guys. But he had, I guess, already met. We'd met in the lodge maybe. He's like, no, these guys just traveled a few states away, paid their money to get in. You can't ban them. Sims decided to pass a law that our boards were too long, even though there's nothing written in the rules anywhere.
No way.
Because ours were like probably 6 inches or 8 inches longer, maybe a foot longer than anyone else's. I mean, we're riding on the tail though, right?
Yeah.
But, we have these big long powder noses. But anyway, Barfoot said him and a few other guys jumped in. It might have been Stevie Dura that helped back us too. Stevie was flight snowboards, which I don't know much about him, but he's my hero.
I have not. I've got his phone number.
He's fantastic.
He's never answered. He's never answered a text.
I met his brother in the water.
Oh wow!
I met his brother out here at Nia Bay on a rainy day years ago.
No way.
One guy in the water. It's me and one guy. I start talking. The guy's from Rhode Island.
Crazy.
And I'm like, do you know a guy named Stevie Dura? He's like, I'm his brother.
No way.
And but anyway. They're surfers, but he started flight skateboards.
Yeah, did you meet Stevie back in the day?
Stevie.
So you knew him. You knew him
fantastic.
pretty well.
We ran an ad.
Yeah.
Lampooning Burton at one point, where because they used to always get into claim. Sims and Burton would get all these claims of what they did first, and Stevie beat them at almost everything far as what was on a snowboard.
Of course.
And so
yeah,
we ran an ad. We had it in the shop forever, framed, but it said like a tribute to the man who invented snowboarding or something like that, or the man something about the man who invented the most of snowboarding, a tribute, and it showed like flight snowboard, Stevie Dura, and I pulled an ad out of Snowboarder magazine, or sorry, Skateboarder magazine, or Surfer, I can't remember, Snowboard magazine, Tom Shea didn't even exist back when Stevie was running his first ads.
Yeah.
Stevie Dura had an ad back in like, I don't even remember, it was 81, 82.
Oh, damn.
But it said, in the ad, it says, so this is what our ad was. It said like a tribute to the man who invented it all or something. And then it's his ad that we re-blew up bigger than his real one was. And his ad from back then said, I invented all this way before Sims or Burton. Back then, that's what he was saying. Maybe it was 82 that he ran, or 83. Damn. But it's way before I met him.
Yeah.
And it says metal edges, not steel, because they were aluminum, but he screwed aluminum to the bottom, not fins. He had aluminum edges that he put on, but it said P-Tex bottom, ABS top, metal edges. I did all these things before Sims or Burton. And this ad was a long time ago. So we ran an ad that said a tribute to the man who invented snowboarding. And then it said around the outside, it was one of our fun GNU ads, it said, pig skates killed him, pig skates killed him, no oil wells, all these things that Burton's like, nah. Because Burton had a lot of money.
They did.
And Stevie didn't. Why it said pig skates killed him, the real story is he was making flight skateboards at the time. He was like a prominent player on the East Coast skateboard scene and up in Rhode Island, right?
Yep.
He pre-glued up a whole bunch of blanks. Back then skates were 7.5 to 8 inches wide, max. So he had a zillion blanks ready to route out to shape, but he'd already formed them with the kicktail. There's no concaves yet. They hadn't been invented. And all of a sudden in California, pig skates came along, which meant 10 inches, 11 inches, well, probably 9 inches to start out.
Sure.
But the trend hit. All of a sudden there's pictures of all the best guys in California, and they're in skates that are wider than 8 inches.
Super fast.
Called pigs.
Yeah.
And there was like an article that's like, the new trend, pig skates. He couldn't even finish his skates. So he's just like, I can't sell any of these skates. I'm done. So he was out of money, and so the way the story goes, I forget how it goes, but he basically was building snowboards at the same time and making some inroads, and then all of a sudden he's out of money, and that's why he went from what for sure was the most technically advanced snowboard on Earth. Now SnowTech was right in there too, to be honest.
Yeah,
they had some badass stuff.
Super badass.
They had a binding slot.
That's right.
Dave Partridge is credited for inventing the slot on snowboards.
Right,
you know,
right.
I don't know if you know him, but New Zealand guy that lives in Canada.
He was in Canada for Revelation.
For Rev, yeah. But I remember when I first met Dave Partridge, like, hey, you should look into the Snow Tech guys because
it's printed in one of his catalogs.
They had a single they had a single extrusion of aluminum like screwed on, and then you moved a bolt up and down, so the binding twisted and went up and down.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, that was Ernie and Shaw, and
that's why I think these inventor things, like, you just can't take them that seriously. You got to be ready to hear, like, oh shit, someone did this in '87. Yeah.
Oh,
right,
yeah, right.
Like, you got to be ready, and if that's gonna ruin your life, if that's gonna ruin your day,
right,
then yikes.
Yeah,
you know, you're doing it for fun. Yeah, right. So you've come up with something. Hey, listen. In comedy, it's called parallel thinking. Yeah. And you know what? If some other big comedian does a joke that you thought of yourself, but they do kind of the same joke, you got to stop doing the joke. That's what it comes down to.
So here's what happened at the contest. So here's where it gets fun. So the contest day starts. We didn't realize we were almost banned. It dumps. That morning, there's like 6 inches of fresh or 5 inches, like good, fresh.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're really going to kill it now because our boards work even better when it's like that.
Yeah.
Well, what happens though is the way they set the slaloms first, they set the course. Tom goes to the top of the hill and does one of his beautiful S-turn runs, which was beautiful. It was no doubt. It was beautiful. His style was beautiful. He was one of the best in the world, without a doubt. He really was. That's how he sets the course. Yeah. He doesn't run and then sets the poles right around. So it's his radius, it's everything. And then they draw out of a hat, and I believe it was his girlfriend or wife at the time. It wasn't Hillary. She's really cool. His ex-wife now is like just awesome. But we became friends over the last years, you know, and since he died, even like she's fantastic. And
rad.
Anyway, it was his girlfriend or wife at the time, but she passed a hat around, you know, to pick. Anyway, he was the first pick.
He picks one.
Of course.
Somehow.
He picks one. And I remember a few people just like swear. I didn't know who anyone was, but people that all knew each other were like.
Ken Achenbach was losing his shit.
Well, because this is the one he lost it at.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. And this is how I got to know Ken later on in the day.
Yeah.
I didn't know him yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he gets to go first. There's 100 and I believe like 28 contestants.
Oh, wow.
The year before was the first year, and there was
83, right?
I think the first year they had like almost nobody.
20 or 12 or like 20 or 12 or something.
And so now there's 120 some.
Damn.
And they go, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to run we're going to run 32. All the established snowboarders go 1 through 32, and then we go 1 through 32 again. And then we go 33 through 128, and then 33 through 128 again.
Oh my God.
So by the time they get and they put us at the back.
Yeah,
John and I are at the very end.
Sure.
He didn't get us kicked out, but he got us to be the last guys that got to go.
Yeah.
And so by the time we get the course,
rutted out and shitty, and
it's just
not
ice
set up for your
which
thing.
Our fins do not work in ice.
Yeah.
It's ice. It's bouncy, crappy ice.
Yeah.
But out of the top 32, they're taking a top 16 to go on to the next day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so 1 through 32. Everyone in the top 16 ends up being from there except me. And so I'm the only guy from like 33 on that makes it. But here's where it gets more complicated or more fun. We get to go. So by the time we're going, it's later in the day. We've been waiting forever and just snowboarding and whatever. So me and John do our first runs and it's ice, right? I think I go right before him. He goes after me and it's our fins are like sticking like football cleats, like we barely can slide. I even fall a couple times, and I still have a time that puts me in the top 16.
Oh shit!
Right? And then John goes his first run, and he falls, and he's not in the. We both fell. He just misses. So then they let 33 through 128 go again. By the time we get there to the last run, I was like, you know what, John? There's no rule. Let's just swing super GS wide. Forget that's a flush. It was like a little tight flush slalom.
Yeah.
Let's just make the widest turns outside of everyone and turn in powder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I go before John and I fall, I DQ.
Yeah.
Right? I'm done. Like, okay. And then John goes makes it through as clean as can be, but turning way out wide, and has the fastest time of the day. And Tom's furious. We get to the bottom. I'm already at the bottom, so I see this transpire, right? I see him coming down, making these perfect wide turns. Doesn't fall. And the time's like a second or two faster than the fastest time, which I think was Tom's. And he's just swearing and mad. And he's like, that's wrong. You guys, the gates are, the time clock's wrong. Cannot be. It's impossible. And I was trying to go, listen, I fell on my first run and I had a top 16 time. And John just did a clean one. Like, our boards are fast. And so anyway, he kind of gets mad at John and goes, okay, because both me and John then are going, you can't do this. And I think this is the point where, I don't know if Chuck, but a few other people are like, they're on our side. They're like going, you can't do this, Tom, because people were not happy with Tom. People that didn't even know us. So Tom goes, okay, here's the deal. If you run up the course as fast as you can now, I think the chair had already closed. It was at the end of the day. He goes, you run up as fast as you can and put on the board as fast as you can and come down immediately before we take all this stuff down. He's like, well, I'll let you have a second run. And so John runs up there as fast as he can, puts his board on, like blows out first or second. He's just tired. He's like, just winded. But anyway, that was it for that. Then the half pipe, they give you, you come down the big flat slope. It's kind of steep, but there's like 2 jumps, and that goes into a semi half pipe with a semi bowl at the end. And the judges are Thrasher. It's Mofo and the Thrasher crew. So this one's the one that's like, okay, this is my event. I know I can get them in this one. I know I got this one because I was skating a lot then, and I had front side inverts down and regular inverts and alley oops. And I was watching them practice. They weren't even getting air. Most of the guys were getting no air whatsoever. And not even getting out. They're just turning in what's supposed to be a half pipe. Ken's one of the other guys. This is how Ken and I met. We were 2 of the only guys getting air.
I love it.
And anyway, what happens is. John and I go before John again. He goes right after me again. And we go at the end again. But by then I knew what all my competition was, though. And I was feeling good about it because Mofo and those guys are like, I'm feeling good. I'm a punk rock dude in these dumb Bermudas. And, But anyway, I go. And I think I can't remember if they were running out of time or how it worked. I don't remember if we got 1 run or 2 runs. Whatever it is, I made it. I qualified easy. I think I qualified like, I don't know, 4th or 5th or 3rd, or I don't know.
Sick.
I made it easy. But then John goes, that's why I can't remember if they ran out of time because it was near the end of the day, if they gave us 2 runs, or maybe this was our second run. I don't really remember. But he goes, and I was coaching him how to do a frontside invert like skateboarding, and he's not a skateboarder at this point anymore. And anyway, so I was like, I had told him, and I said, just go for it, dude, just go for it. And so he goes for it, and being a skier, he over launches where his hand's not even close. He's so far out, and his angle is not vert enough. He goes shooting out into the crowd upside down and lands in the crowd on his back and breaks his back.
Oh my God!
Like literally breaks his back, but doesn't know it. He's stubborn and excited and young, and so he bounces. The board breaks. The binding tears out of the back, I believe, and he's just like wind knocked out of him, and everyone's cheering. Mofo, I just remember Mofo's the judge, and the Thrasher guy's like, yeah, and they're like, complete the run, or we're gonna score you high. So he just kind of rolls into the bowl on the board with 1 foot on it, just kind of slides down to the bottom, not realizing his back's broken. He's just like, oh, the wind's knocked out of me.
Holy
crap. Anyway, and then Ken earlier, before our runs, and him and I started talking, and he had this barfoot suit that was all gray. It said Funky Punker on it. It said barfoot and then Funky Punker.
I love
it. And I met him. He's like, oh, I'm from Canada. And he might have been one of the guys that was on the ramp that morning. But anyway, Evan Feen's the guy I'm thinking of. Evan Feen. It was either Lester Quitzau or Evan Feen that was riding the ramp.
I should have said Evan.
That's who I was thinking of. I think that's who's jumping in that really cool barfoot poster.
Oh, absolutely.
But anyway.
Evan's a master.
At this point, Ken, you could tell there was he already had encountered Tom in his contest rules the year before or something. But when he went, he was like, hey, I forget what he did. I think he said, I'm going to swing way outside the crowd, go through the crowd, and try to jump this whole half pipe. And whatever it is, I think he came shooting through, tried to jump it, and just slams into the other wall. And I just remember his glasses and his gloves, everything flies. And that's kind of how we got to know each other, right?
Amazing.
But then when he saw John's run later, he's like, yeah, like jumped into the crowd and landed on his back, on his head and his back. And John ended up breaking his back in the middle.
Oof,
and,
that's not good.
And anyway, so we go Sunday, the last day is coming up where the finals are going to be, and we're staying at a youth hostel in Truckee, and it turns out the Avalanche guys are there, and this is before I knew them.
Yeah.
So there's other guys there like, oh, we have a snowboard company too, and they're looking at John and my boards, and they're like, oh, well, the ones I had were even more hippie looking than any of those. They had splatters all over them, and they're looking at our stuff, and they were trying to make a reasonable looking board that you could sell. I wasn't.
Did they have the? Wait. No, sorry, I'm mixing the early Barfoot stuff up with.
Yeah.
You haven't mentioned him yet, but PD did some stuff at that time.
PD did for sure. Yeah, Crystal Ocean.
And he had the full skeleton guy.
I believe, he didn't do that till after this, but I can't remember. I don't think he was even there, but I remember he came out with Crystal Ocean. He might have been there. But
he got his boards made wherever it was that Avalanche was getting those kicks made.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Yeah, so that was
spot.
later. That was a little later. The kicks and all that were.
Oh,
Avalanche
the kicks
this time
are way later.
Yeah,
88,
Avalanche still had
87,
fins
88.
and no steel edges or anything. And
right.
Damien wasn't Damien yet.
No.
Damien didn't qualify. Damien was there.
Oh, wow.
He didn't even qualify.
They were the ironing boards at that point with the
they
pointy
weren't even ironing
noses.
boards. At this point, they weren't ironing boards yet.
Oh, they weren't even that.
They became ironing boards a year, no more, like two years later maybe.
86.
Yeah. Because this is 84.
Holy.
This is early 84. This is like not the end of 84. This is spring.
These are handmade garage boards.
This is like April or March, probably March of 84.
Handmade garage boards from Avalanche.
Yeah. So they were in the same youth hostel as us. So,
Jeez, man.
So maybe Tom Burt was with us, but I know Chris was there. Chris was there, and I forget the other buddy they had. But anyway, they
maybe Jim Zellers or something.
It's Jim Zellers. Yeah. It's probably Jim Zellers.
That makes sense.
But because I don't recall Tom Burt, but he probably was there.
Yeah,
but he lives. Who knows?
He
lives close enough.
South Shore or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
No, he was in North Beach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's close enough. He might not have been in the youth hostel.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the middle of the night, John. There's one more day to go of the finals. John wakes up.
He's got
in the middle of the night to pee, and he just collapses.
No.
And anyway, in the morning when I could see him, I was like, whoa. Looked like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It was contorting all his muscles, and he's like, something's wrong. I'm having spasms. We didn't think broken back because to us that's a serious thing.
Yeah,
instead we're like, whoa, you gotta spasm me back. And so he ends up anyway.
Poor dude.
He's almost throwing up. He's in so much pain.
Of course.
But he's like, hey, go get your final run in the half pipe. Just go get that.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you sure? So I helped him in the car. He drove because he said hanging on the steering wheel helped. He just hugged the steering wheel. So he waited down below while I did the half pipe run. I had to skip everything else because I did the half pipe run. And anyway, they DQ'd me. I didn't know because I had to leave before the whole thing was before they judged.
Yeah.
But I think I put in a pretty good run. And Rudy Rassman has some of the footage because I met Rudy.
Sick.
And his brother. His brother was filming.
Yeah.
Because Rudy was there, right?
Sick, dude.
Gary and Rudy were there. And so I met them. And I know Jeff Fulton and those guys over the years went, hey, Rudy's got some footage of the Worlds. And you're the only guy doing like airs and alley-oop airs and da-da-da-da-da. And anyway, I was like, yeah, that's how it was. And Damien could do airs, but they didn't qualify him either. I didn't know Damien yet, but he dislocated his shoulder after it was over. He didn't qualify for the finals, but he was like working on his airs and he dislocated his shoulder after it was over.
Damn.
And I had dislocated mine the year before, so I was with his mom and him, and he was a young kid, and I was like, hey, it's going to be cool. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Look, I'm
fine
just
now. 6 weeks of nothing, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
And that's how I first met Damien, and I didn't realize he was the brother of who I was at the youth hostel with. But had no idea that he'd become Damien, the great Damien.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the finals, this is what I didn't know, is I thought, I know there's bias.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get at least top 3. I got to get, because most of these other guys aren't.
You're the only one doing stuff.
And I'm doing,
yeah.
I did I did a front side invert, and I did some alley-oops, and the backside wall didn't have much. So you just do a big old sweep and carve and come back, and and get it. And I did some frontside airs, some big frontside airs, like head height of the people. There's a picture that turns out Barfoot had from Scott Starr that we bought from Scott Starr recently,
sick.
where I thought it was Damien. Barfoot came up to do a show like 15, 20 years ago at SnowCon, where it was like, meet Chuck Barfoot. And he, John Logic had like drinks and a show, and he did a slideshow of his history. And in it, a picture comes up and everyone's like, oh, it's Damien doing a big old air. And I forgot, like, oh yeah, wait, I looked like Damien back then. Cause everyone goes, that's Damien. And Chuck goes, no, that's you. And I went, what? So we ended up buying it. It was a Scott Starr photo.
I love that.
Because I didn't know what it looks like. I've never seen myself, but I was like head high on everyone. And in the background, you look at it, it's kind of classic. It's like Bob Klein, Harry Kidwell, all going, they're all like, their faces are like this. They're all holding their Sims boards and Burton boards, and I'm at their head height.
Rad. That is so
But anyway,
rad.
I waited like 2 months, 3 months till Thrasher came out. And because Skateboarder magazine had died. Actually, now it died. It was Thrasher, I believe, that came out that had the results. And I was like, I got to be top 3 at least. I didn't stick around because I had to bring John. I brought him up we made it as far as Bend, Oregon. Then we went to a
clinic or whatever.
Yeah, they said he had a broken back. We're like, okay. But he was a good sport. He waited in the car while I did that run. But anyway, I looked and I was like, I think they listed a top 5 or 6, but I was like, whoa, I didn't make it. Anyway, I talked later. I don't remember who it was. If it was Barfoot or Achenbach. Somebody said that they once again went, oh yeah, the gravity hippie dude, like, because I did a tail tap on one of the Thrasher guys' cameras. I did an air where I went, boned it out and tapped him in the crowd and dropped back in. And Sims DQ'd me.
For that.
There was no rule against that. He said, it's not written, but you can't hit a cameraman. He tapped the cameraman's lens. And it was someone from Thrasher who was
Tom,
like, ah! Like,
Tom was
he
that way, hey?
Yeah.
He was just that was, he didn't mind.
And that's before I made friends with him, but you got to understand, I worshipped him because every skate I made looked like him. And I'm going, Tom did that to me? Like, kidding? And then he came up to Baker, like a year later, we had about a year later, we had the first bank slalom.
85, right.
Yeah, 85. And by then he knew who John and I were.
Yeah, of course.
And he offered us each $100 to not race. And it was the most flattering thing I've ever had.
That's incredible.
We're standing right before the contest starts, and he comes up to both of us and goes, I'll pay you each. And we were broke.
Yeah.
He goes, I'll pay you each $100 to not race today. And we were like, sorry, we're going to race. Well, turns out kind of the same thing happened. It got iced up. It went from kind of soft to just ice. By the time it got to us, it was fair there. I was like, I forget, we ran like middle of the pack, but John he fell and broke his board on his first run.
Oh my God.
And then I was like cleating it, just dragging on that. And I think I got 9th. There was like 18 people. And I got like 9th.
I've seen those. I've seen the
I think I beat like Lester.
One.
I beat a few.
Yeah.
I remember I look back now, like, who were those people? There was like maybe an Evan, Feen, and Lester that I beat, but I felt horrible because I thought I did horrible because I was like, we wanted to win it. John and I, we're going to win this easy. It's Baker. It's our zone.
Yeah.
And we're going to win this thing easy.
And we ride fast. Our boards are good.
I think Tom won it. It was like Tom.
Tom did
Terry.
win the first one. Tom and Palmer. Palmer
wasn't there yet. Palmer didn't exist yet.
Was he?
The first year. He came year 2.
He won year 2?
Year 2.
And then...
He came year 2, and that's the only year they ran it down the Pan Dome. They ran it down. It was ice. It was boilerplate ice, low tide.
And he won it.
And they ran it down the Pan Dome.
Jeez.
And it was super G. It wasn't really a bank slalom, I mean, kind of, but but James Clausen.
Yep. From Canada.
From Edmonton.
Yeah.
Got 2nd or 3rd, and he was on a homemade Outland board.
Oh, I love it.
That's the card. Remember, we found this thing.
Yeah,
James
dude,
Clausen.
James Clausen.
We hooked up with him instantly. We'd never met him, and we're like, dude. And so that was our first year of having steel edges and us and Avalanche had no fins. I forgot James Clausen also had a board with no fins.
It's wild.
And his was longer than ours. His was one off, though. He only made one. Took him forever. He like totally handmade, like hand sanded the core. Like I built a planer that you could just feed him through and a very old thing. He was like, no, I just used a sander and like hand shaped it. But he won, and then he went on to the U.S. Open that year. And I forget, somebody just told me a James Clausen story that just met him somewhere. And said the story there too, like, I don't remember if they were trying to ban him. Something's happened where they were trying to not let him compete, or
Well,
he ends up getting second, I think, in the slalom or GS, like beats all the Burton guys in their territory.
That killed Ken Ock about all of this was that he had ski raced.
Yeah.
And his family and his friends had adults in the ski race.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of effort going into making things fair.
Yeah.
And then he came and saw a Tom event and was like, this guy's a cheater. Like, he's cheating so many ways. And, and we're all seeing it and we're all okay with this. Like, screw this guy.
Ken, what I heard later, and it was probably from Ken.
Yeah.
It could have been from Chuck. It might have been from Chuck. This is a Chuck type story. It's probably Chuck when he told me that Tom was trying to keep me and John out.
Yeah.
Apparently when the awards happened, we drove away with John's broken back, didn't know what happened. Apparently when Ken got his award, and I don't know which event it was in, whatever it was, it's one he should have won or done better. It's one that somehow there was a little trickery that went on. He gave, I think it was like the first place winner got money, like because everyone that we had to pay like $50 to get in or $40.
Yeah.
They divvied up the money. Like the winner got a bundle of money and like second place got a bundle of money. And then here's Ken, and they gave him a little trophy, a little like kid's trophy. And apparently he took it and hit. Have you heard the story?
So the story
is Tom on the head, I heard, with the trophy.
So close. He got second.
Okay,
and it came with $400.
Okay.
And in front of everybody, Tom goes, well, you owe me $400 for that last order. Still, I'm going to keep the money.
That's what it
Puts
is.
it in his pocket. And Ken goes, fuck you. And he
punches
he
him.
Put the trophy back in his chest.
There we go.
Like, take your fucking... I don't want this fucking trophy either.
That's what I heard in front of everybody. I heard he hit him with a trophy.
Yeah, and somebody had that trophy and they sent it to Ken. Like, I think he now has that trophy.
Oh, right on.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
It's such a small group of people to think of the people that were there.
Yeah.
You know, somebody, Aaron Vincent, who's, he was a Sims rider for a long time. Yeah, amazing rider.
Yeah.
When I caught up with him in the Donner parking lot, and he's showing me Noah Selaznik's board, which is what he's riding, which is super sick. I was like, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
He was talking about why the boards fell apart. And I don't know which board he was talking about, but he said that he'd heard that Ken Hockenbach was ashing out his joints in the mold. It was such a bizarre thing to hear.
Yeah.
I was like, that's just
funny.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was H Street board. He was like, I heard these all delaminated because Ken Hockenbach was ashing out. I'm like, that's so far from any reality. How could that even be?
Right.
Ken didn't make boards.
Yeah.
At H Street. That's
That's
magnificent.
Exactly.
That's Tony Mack.
Well, yeah, we've heard plenty of stories like that here too, like the real patchouli oil.
Yeah, the
patchouli oil. Delaminating because she had patchouli oil. Maybe a few did, but not all of them. Because after she quit, she did have a lot of patchouli oil on, but after she quit, they still delamed the edges.
Give me the Matt Cummings story. If we can't get that, we gotta. Like, where does he come from?
How about the weave? I'll tell you. So Matt,
and then the weave.
So the Matt story is fantastic. So Pete and I, Fred was my partner. Pete was so awesome. He was in his, I believe, senior year of college and decided like, hey, I want to come help you. Right, a year before, I think it was the year before when I said him and Rich Nolan came and Pete stuck around and Rich didn't for the winter. You know, I had some winter orders. So then the next year, Pete graciously came and started helping me and wasn't part of the business yet, right? And we didn't have money to pay, right? He was helping, realizing that, because I always said, hey, do you want to be part of the business? Like, I was like, Fred, do you want to be part of the business? I was just tired of being alone.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. People are like, did you sell the bit? I'm like, no. I even told people like, Fred, you can have all of it if you want. I want a partner. I just need anyone. But Fred was my partner, but he started disappearing, wasn't around, right? It's a long story as to why, but he got in a car accident out here in Nia Bay, coming back from surfing, didn't get hurt, but his life passed before his eyes. So he took half of our first bank loan, ran to Sun Valley. We had a $40,000 bank loan, and all of a sudden it was gone. We had all these orders after that trade show in Long Beach, and I was alone, and I had half the loan left, and I'd already spent it on tools mainly to build a factory because we had our first rental spot. So Pete was helping me. And so through that whole year, we're struggling. Pete, we have no money. We literally would eat at Kmart, all you could eat at the cafeteria, all you could eat chicken.
I forgot they
had that.
And
we would literally do that because it was all you could eat chicken for $2.99. And
wow.
and we did it almost every day. We worked long hours, and I couldn't pay him. He could have all the free boards he wanted to build there. He could take home. But anyway, towards the middle end of that year, all of a sudden we're getting a good reputation. We have this Kryptonics urethane around the size of pre-preg. These boards are super, like insane. They're super tough. They're,
Which boards are these? Are these
I don't
GNU?
have any right here.
Are they GNUs? They're not
GNUs.
Libs. They're not the first.
No, they're GNUs, and they're that one on the wall right behind it, that long one.
Yeah.
That's got the barfoot sticker on it.
Yeah.
It's the year after that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that one.
So they're good. They're good.
That
boards.
one I got second at Hayak, the Hayak Bank Slalom. I got second to. It was my last real race that I only raced in a couple of races since then, but it's the last one I cared about. I got second to Craig Kelly. I beat Dano and all those guys.
Congrats.
And Rankwit, of course. But Craig went on to win the world championship after that, like a few weeks later. And so I went, I don't really want to race again. I'm never going to do better than that. I was on that board. That's when I went, I always tell people I'm not competitive, but, I don't want to enter to go, I'm aiming for sixth.
Right.
We want to win.
Of course.
I wanted to beat Craig, but I got second. That felt good enough because he went on to win the worlds that year. And, but anyway, so that next year we're building these really fancy boards that have, like I said, UHMW sidewalls, ABS tops, sintered bases, super high molecular sintered bases I was getting from Rhode Island, a place called Dixon. I think it's Rhode Island, but it's could have been Connecticut. But they were making me this stuff that wasn't even from Europe. It was really high molecular weight base. It was insane.
Was it all black?
No, they were purple.
Purple.
They were purple.
Oh, I've seen.
We had ones that said Team Disco. We did
Team
yellow
Disco.
and purple.
Yep.
We made the ones for from Glacier Snowboards with yellow, and ours were purple.
Yeah.
But anyway, 2/3 of the way through the year, we get a phone call, and it's Matt Cummins on the phone. No one knows Matt Cummins yet, but he's like, "Hey, I'm from Gig Harbor. I think he was still in high school. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was still in high school." And he's like, "Hey, I heard you guys make these snowboards, da 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 da." He's like, "I've built one myself. I built it out of the wall of my treehouse and it worked pretty good, but I've heard you guys make good." And he goes, "Can I trade you for a snowboard? I don't really have money." And we're like, "Yeah, no. I mean, the one thing we don't have is we need money. We don't have any money." And so he hung up and then called back. "Well, how about if I trade?" He goes, he started saying things like, "My mom skis. We got a water ski in our garage." He started listing all these things that he could trade us. And we were like, "Yeah, no, we can't do that." He kept calling and sweetening the pot of what he's going to trade us of, like his parents' things. And finally, we just told them, like, "Listen, we'll try to find like a second or something and give you a sweet deal." But when he came down from Gig Harbor, and he had his friend Rob. I remember this tall guy named Rob that had like a rain suit on, like a fisherman's rain suit. And Matt showed up and he's like, "Well," I kind of started with, "I don't really have money again." He was supposed to bring, I forget what he said, like, "Can you bring like $110 or something like that?" And he came like, I don't remember how it worked, but somehow we gave him a board and like that he could pay over time. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but somehow we made it work, and he got to drive away with a board. And then he, super nice guy, kept calling us. We loved that this like high school guy is calling us. And he might have been 18 at the time. But anyway, the Worlds were coming up in Breckenridge, and Pete and I were going to drive down there, and talking to Matt, he's like, "Hey, can I come with you guys?" And we didn't even know Matt really. And we're like, "All right." My little 2-wheel drive truck, we get in, and we piled a bunch of base material in the back to weight it in case we hit snow. That's what we used as our weight. Wow. Chains and that, but we didn't hit snow. But we drove all the way to Colorado to Breckenridge, and the three of us crammed in this little truck, and our skateboards were all jammed. I mean, it's not a crew cab, it's the single cab. And our skates were jammed behind the seat that folds back a little bit, and then so we had wheels popping into our backs the whole drive, and I just remember it was like we were in pain, right? And we get down there, and anyway, Matt's got his board that we sold them. And anyway, Matt does. I know me and Pete were really tired because we had been building all these boards for the contest for our team riders. We had Amy Howitt, Dan Donnelly, Carter Turk, Jason Kasnitz. I think Marcelo Dovis might have been there. I can't remember, but Mike Rinkwit was still on our team too. Sick. So we had all those guys. We had a good team. Yeah. We had a really formidable team. And so we get down there, and both Pete and I were just like, oh, our legs were like sore. And we hadn't exercised. We hadn't ridden the mountain forever because we were building boards. But Matt ends up, so Pete and I are in the just regular men's events, whatever, like not the pro one, just a regular it was the biggest group. Yeah. And we went at the end. I remember it was one of those things, somehow we were laced at the end. But anyway, Matt ended up making the finals. He didn't register in time, right? He's a junior. So he was like 17 or 18. Yeah. I think he was 17. Now that I think about it, because he was very well still junior. And I remember someone getting mad. Paul Alden used to run the thing back then. Yep. And so he's like, nope, you can't be in juniors. You didn't get in time. There's no spaces for you, but we'll let you do adult men. So he's in the same category we're in, but he ends up killing it. He ends up killing the half pipe. Yeah. Right? He's a skater, really good skater. And he ends up killing it. And I think he ended up getting 7th in the world in men's, and he's a kid. Right? But also fun on that one is we didn't have a place to stay. So we rented a room with, and this is where it gets really fun, the Nectar guys, Victor Coyne, and Don Zavo. And Bert Lamar.
Oh yeah, he was on Nectar before he was on.
I think I'm not positive he was on Nectar, but he may have been on Nectar.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the year that he
could have been on Sims. He might have just bought a Sims.
This is where he came and did well, right?
This is what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
So we're all rooming together, and this is a story almost nobody knows. You're hearing a story that's almost never been told.
I love.
So we got Don Zavo and Victor Coyne, who we've never heard of. Yep. But they're on Nectar, and Pete and I are surfers. We're like, oh, Nectar.
Yeah,
that's
Nectar's good, right?
That's like a brand out of like New Zealand, like surfboards, right?
Yeah.
It's Nectar, and it's anyway. They're honeycomb nectars that Bill Bain's making, who made the Bain Doyle monoski.
This is pre-tailored
ECMA, for sure. Way pre-tailored ECMA.
Amazing.
It's a honeycomb board that they're on, and I don't know. I think Bert was on a Sims. I think he just went and bought a Sims, or he might have. Sims probably gave him one, right?
Right, because he rode for Sims when he was a kid.
Yeah, he was like one of the best skaters in the world for Sims. So Sims may have given him one.
Yeah,
but he's not on the radar of Tom, like rooming with any of their people. He's Fleabag like us, living in. We got the cheapest motel room that we can get.
And these
and
guys.
He's my hero. As a skater, I knew who Bert Lamar was. And now he's a grown man, but when I knew him, he was the kid, boy wonder that was beating Dwayne Peters and all those guys.
Totally.
So I'm like, this is insane. And Matt knew who he was. We're like, get a room. This is so cool with Bert Lamar. And Bert's like, he'd been out of skating and snowboarding, the industry, for a long time. He was now a hairdresser, right? Yeah. And so we're rooming with them. And so for the day of the finals, we knew Bert was like, hey, he's of the crew there. I don't think Victor Coyne or Don Zavo made the finals in halfpipe. I know Craig and Dan did, and Dan was our team rider. And but anyway, and they were all staying somewhere else. I don't know where they were all staying, but we were in different motels. Oh wait, no, Dan was with us. Sorry, got that wrong. Matt's with us, right? Dan's with somebody else. Dan used to drive to trade shows with us with skateboards at our back too. So Matt's with us. Dan's probably with the Baker crew. Yeah, he's on our board, so he made the finals. But Bert makes the finals. And anyway, what was fun is Bert goes, "Hey guys, like, we all kind of just got to know each other. We're all this odd couple rooming together." He goes, "I'm a hairdresser, man. I'm going to cut all your guys' hair, lockets, and tape them to my board for good luck." So he tapes our hair to his board for good luck.
What, really?
And he ends up winning.
Yeah, he won that.
He won. He friggin' wins.
And he got that. So here's what Ken says about that win. Yeah. Was that Tom had screwed over Bert when he was a kid.
Right.
Like didn't give him didn't pay him. Didn't pay him.
Right.
And so Bert came up with this idea to take a sponsorship check from Tom, win the Worlds. Yep. He knew how to work Tom. It was like a revenge thing. Yeah. He's coming back and he's going to win. And when he wins, he's going to sign a contract with Tom, get the check, take the money, and then go ride for Lamar. He went, yeah,
or he went for Burton next. Did you know that? He went next to Burton.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he did the Burton thing.
He signed with Burton the next year. I believe it was Burton.
Way.
Yeah.
Because then he had Look. He did all his stuff came out on.
Then
Look.
it was so what happened? There was controversy. Maybe it's kind of like Craig's. I think he shortly rode. I'm almost dead positive because then the next year. He was the guy. They had a poster that showed him. It was Swatch World Championships. The next year
right.
It was twice as big.
Yes, yeah.
Bob Gundrum, you know Bob?
No.
He owns Union and that whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Right? Captain and Union?
Yeah.
He used to date my sister. He was on the U.S. ski team back in the old days.
No way.
I think jumping or moguls. But I knew him when I was a kid in my living room. But he's the guy that owns Union now.
Unreal.
He used to own Drake. And he was, he ran Lamar. He was the guy that was he was at Ride for a while too. But he's the guy. So what happens is he kind of wiggles his way into convincing Swatch Switzerland that he could run their company over here or be the man. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden he's kind of in charge of Swatch, I think for at least maybe all the US or West Coast of North America or something. He's the one that sets up the idea of let's sponsor snowboarding, right? He's a hardcore ski dude. He's not a snowboarder yet himself. So he's the guy that promotes it all. And I'm laughing because I know this guy. I'm like, he used to date my sister.
That's amazing.
But it's all of a sudden highbrow. Swatch is huge.
Yeah.
And Bert's the man everyone's looking at now, right? And I believe he was riding a Burton board. Maybe I'm wrong. It wasn't Lamar yet for sure.
It wasn't.
I don't think it was Look yet either.
It wasn't Look yet.
I don't think it was Look yet.
Right.
I don't think it was
because
Look
that
yet.
happens
I
pretty
might be
quick.
wrong, but
because he is on a Look. I think he's on a Look when he does the pajamas thing,
yeah,
which is the
right.
next year.
The next year, because and this is why I think he was on Burton temporarily, and maybe got into a Dorfman contract dispute also.
Sick.
Because now it's the next year, and so we're not rooming with him. He's highbrow now. We're still dirtbags.
Yeah, he's the world champ.
He's the world champ.
Yeah.
But we're still pulling for him. We like Bert, right? He's our bro.
Yeah.
But what happens is Bert, he got to go near the end of each run to see how everyone's doing. Because he's a Burton guy and Paul Alden's running the thing, and so he goes into his final run. They get 2 runs, but the final run, the first one was I think he was kind of in there, but not first place. His final run. He goes in and he's trying to work the crowd. So he hits a couple hits and then rolls out on the deck and does this to the crowd to pump everyone up and then catches his edge and falls. And I remember seeing it.
Yeah. I remember seeing it.
Yeah, and I don't remember if he fell on the deck or fell into the bowl, but it ruins his run. His run's over basically. And he can't win.
And that's it. He can't win.
He can't win. And they might have taken the combined 2 runs back then. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, he's not going to win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, Damien at the time, and by then I know Damien, right?
Yeah.
Damien slays everybody. It's not even close.
He's crushing.
He's on the color crayon shaped board that doesn't flex with hard boots.
Yeah, the reflex.
But he beats everybody. It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's his and nobody else's, right? And Craig was legitimately second or something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the results. Everyone starts hearing about the results before it's officially announced, and it kind of leaks out. And it's I think it was Craig that won, if I remember right.
Craig won the second.
Craig won. Damien's second. Bert's way at the end, right? Because he fell.
Yeah.
He's way at the end, but he's a Burton guy, right? And so all of a sudden we hear this word leaks out from the judges, because the judges are even pissed that Paul Alden, I don't know who did it. But someone at Burton, the speculation was Paul, because somebody made pictures of Paul Alden and flew him on helium balloons at the awards banquet, like a no Paul Alden, which is funny now because we became best friends with Paul since then.
Yeah.
He quit Burton and became everyone's best friend. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He's unreal. But at the time, and we were bummed because we paid for the sponsorship, like a lot of brands did, to have our banner there.
Yeah.
And they didn't put our banner up. They rolled out we were kind of being punk rock.
Yeah.
But Mervin helped us make it. He bought some old rotten sailcloth that stunk. We put our own grommets in it. We rolled it out and we painted with spray. Everyone else had official
my God.
Swatch, Sims, Burton, and ours.
Well, no wonder
was
they
spray
didn't put it up.
It showed a family, a dad, mom, son, daughter, and a kid, all with one eye, and a nuclear bomb coming from their end, flying at them. And then it just said GNU. They're about to get flattened by a nuclear bomb, and they're one-eyed.
I love it.
And
I can't believe they didn't put that up.
He didn't put it up. And to me later, he was like, we misplaced that. I was like, no, you didn't. But anyway, when the awards get announced, they take Damien, who was in second. He's either second or third, whatever place he was in. They give Bert his place. And he didn't get points for that place, but they were like, you can't have Bert, end up in 15th or whatever. So they give him Damien's place and put Damien in Bert's place. And you're like, what? And so that's when everyone, and that was a few hours before the awards banquet. The awards banquet, there's balloons everywhere with Paul's face on it with a big X. I just remember people from Burton jumping, trying to grab him, but they're way up in the air.
Oh my God, this is so comedic. How does Matt do? Matt obviously cracks the top 10.
Well, Matt, that second year, he might have been in men's. Yeah, he was good. Yeah. He ended up having a real long run of being one of the better half-pipe riders in the world. At one point, he became 4th in the world. Okay. When everyone started Euro carving. Yep. And nobody cared anymore. Right. He's like, yeah, the year that I finally get to 4th in the world, where he's going to compete all over the world, I'm 4th place, and now everyone just wants to, you carve. And he's like, duh, like, you got really good. But one thing we did that year, I will reveal this, it's never been revealed, but it's pretty funny that happened that year. I think it was that year. Yeah, it was that year. I taught Drew and Dennis from Salty Peaks joined with us, and me and Pete and Matt Cummins and a few other people, we were sitting at Wendy's the night before the finals, and we already knew some shenanigans were up with the judging. We could just feel it. It was in the air already. Yeah. I think a few controversies already happened in the trials, but we're sitting at Wendy's, and I was like, okay, dude, we got to do this. Mervin and I had this trick. We knew, like, you either get Jell-O or like Hawaiian Punch in all the different colors, and then you steal a few ketchup and mustard bottles from it might not have been a Wendy's because it had ketchup and mustard bottles. It might have just been a mom pop. Yeah. Anyway, we got some ketchup and mustard bottles, and we went and bought Jell-O, and then you mix all these colors in the bottles, and then you go up in the middle of the night to the half pipe, and you can put down any graffiti you want, and they can't get it out. Right. It goes so deep. Because it goes deep. Yeah. And I love this. Somebody in our crew. Anyway, it was pretty, we put up some pretty hideous, but yeah, I remember Drew was with us. I think Dennis was with us because they're just giggling. We're all like, we're like rebels, right? Yeah. Maybe Jeannie Higgins was there and Jeff Davis might have been there. Like all these Salty Peaks guys were there, I think. Yeah. I know some of them. For sure Drew was there. Yeah. But we're all of a sudden painting all the walls with graffiti, and it's kind of gnarly. Yeah. We're kind of having fun. Yeah. There was maybe some bestiality pictures and things that, but anyway, so we wake up the next day and we wake up a little bit late because we were out in the middle of the night and there's a commotion. The word is the finals were delayed. They're like, yeah, there's a delay. Someone vandalized the half pipe. So by the time we get there, it's like mud brown everywhere and just people axing and digging and scraping and that's awesome. And then the whole Bert Lamar fiasco happened too. You know, that happened. We were all for Bert. Yeah, nothing yet. I'm all for Bert, but not Damien. Like, wait, so no, Damien, you can't. If you're gonna even trick it, because he's the Burton guy, right? And he's the Swatch guy because he was sponsored by Swatch then. Totally. If you're going to move him up to second, don't make Damien go to the end. No, just drop Damien down to third, right? Yeah, but Damien was killing it. I think Craig probably did deserve to win it, but Damien was going huge, and however you judge it, like Damien, I don't think they didn't like Damien, so I personally thought Damien was the best. He didn't have any sponsors running ad just space. His brother, right? And so during the contest, there was all the graffiti and all the fiasco, and then during the contest, the Avalanche guys started a snowball fight. I've heard about the snowball fight. That also delayed for a while. Yeah. And I remember some of the Burton crew running around like all furious, like, no, we're going to kick all you guys out. And I just remember it was Dana Nicholson and Damien and all those guys. And anyway, we loved the Avi guys, Avalanche guys. We were stoked. And there was a few of the Glacier guys at that time. It might have been Duck Boy by then. Yeah. But they were cool too. So we were. Of course. But the first year, let's see, I'm trying to remember. This was the first year after the first world champ, or the first Breckenridge contest.
85.
That's when Dave Weaver
86.
mixes in.
Yeah.
After that one, I get a call from Dave Weaver after that contest, that first one where Bert Lamar won. So it's spring now, going into, it might have been summer, right? And Dave Weaver calls me, and I didn't really know Dave Weaver, but I'd heard of him. But he's like, hey, I'm Dave Weaver. I'm the 4-minute Sims, build all the boards here. We're down here at Newport Beach now, building these boards. He's super professional, super nice. And he's like, Tom Sims wants you to come work for us. Like, we want you to set up the factory for Vision. And
Wow.
And anyway, I was like, whoa, this is like, I was literally making nothing. I was living with my mom, eating Kmart, all you can eat, $2.99. Yeah. And he goes, I want to fly up. I'm going to fly up and meet with you. And I'm kind of, got butterflies. Fred at this point had taken our bank loan and ran. So we're out of money, and Pete's not part of the business, not a partner yet officially, but he's helping me. So I feel, really grateful and indebted to everything he's done. And anyway, Loewe flies up, and I'm in an old rickety 2-wheel drive car, and he's a Newport guy. He's a highbrow new guy, right?
Yep.
And he said, I'm going to take you out to lunch. I just want to meet with you for a few hours. And, to me, I'm like, a guy flies up to meet, like, I have no money. Like,
yeah.
I still mow lawns for money on the side. And Barfoot, too, is like, he painted houses. And
yeah, of course.
But Loewe flies up. And anyway, being who I was and feeling a little punk rock, I was like, this is a Noop's highbrow guy. I was like, just for fun, like, I'm going to take him to the Kmart cafeteria for lunch. And so when I pick him up, he goes, take me wherever you want to go to lunch. Where's your favorite place to go? And I go, hey, Kmart cafeteria. And I realized right then and there, he was so in a different world. He didn't even know what I was talking about. He didn't realize it's a joke. He's like, sounds great. And he's like, this is a good place. Like, he starts asking me about it. I was like, Kmart cafeteria. I'm waiting for the joke, the punchline to land, realizing all of a sudden I'm kind of embarrassed for him. Like, this is, he's in a different world of money than I'm living
somewhere
from
else.
Newport Beach, California.
He's never heard of a Kmart.
I start driving to
cafeteria.
White Center, which is kind of, back then it was kind of the sketchy part of town. And we're driving, and I was like, well, how about Chinese food instead? So I took him to a place that was, to me, was highbrow. My dad and I used to go there when we're feeling like we had enough money.
Yeah.
It was just a regular Chinese restaurant that was probably like $4.95 a piece or something.
Sure.
And I took him there then, and it was called King Waz and Burien. So we sat there, and I was like, wow, he's paying for this. Like, he's paying for my meal. But this is what he said. He goes, we'll give you right now. He goes, he was recruiting. He goes, if you come down and set this thing up, it turns out it's the job Shakek ended up getting it when I said no. He gave me like a week to think about it. He goes, I'll give you $40,000 a year.
Holy shit.
At the time, I just done a newspaper interview with the Highline, a little local paper. And I was like, someday, by the time I get older, I hope I can make $10,000 a year. That's my end goal someday. So he's going. I remember in the newspaper, like, if I could live in a bus and make $10,000 a year, I'd be stoked.
Yeah.
Live in a school bus.
Yeah.
But he's going, I'll give you $40,000 and I'll set you up with a place to live on Newport Beach. And he goes, this is what he said. He goes, and he knew I loved to surf, right? He knew enough about me. He'd figured it out through Tom. By then, Tom and I had become friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because anyway, he was super nice. You can't, and he is a super nice guy. I've known him since.
The Weave, man.
He's a super great guy. He moved to Costa Rica years later, and everybody likes the Weave.
Yeah.
I got to know him really well over the years after that. But yeah, $40,000, gonna get you a place at Newport, and we're gonna surf every day. And he goes, you know what? I got all these places in Baja. We're gonna go down there. And he goes, I know all the ladies. You're gonna have all the ladies you could ever dream of. We're gonna go to Baja every weekend. We're gonna build snowboards. We're gonna make a ton of money. You're going to go to ski resorts everywhere and da-da-da-da. Anyway, I remember just dropping off and feeling kind of sick to my stomach because, it was a radically fantastic offer. But I was thinking, I know Fred just took half the loan and ran. I shouldn't feel indebted to him. But still, I was still like, something just felt weird. Like, it was like, and he wasn't around anymore. But and Pete was like family helping like crazy. It was like, I can't leave these guys. Even though Fred's never here, I can't leave these guys. We're on a mission. It's like quitting the mission. It just seemed like weird. Like, so we're renting this place, me and Fred, like just walk away. I know the loan has nothing left on it, but we already have all these customers. We have our new snowboards. Like, just walk away and be Sims. Something just didn't feel right. And the other thing, to be honest, I was a little intimidated, thinking, I know how to make these really high-end boards that are really slow and hard to make, but I don't think I'm not ready to do what he wants. It was intimidating. Like, he's like, we're going to make thousands of boards right off the first year.
Oh, Jesus.
And, you know, you're going to be part of Vision and part of Sims and da-da-da. So on one hand, it was like, wow, this is the most flattering thing ever. But yeah, I called him a week later, like, yeah, I can't do it. So then found out later, I didn't know Shaw. Yeah, Shaw. Have you ever met Shaw?
No.
So he's Ernie's partner in Snow Tech.
At Capital One. Yeah.
Rochester, New York.
Oh, way before Ernie gets.
Yeah.
Do you know how Ernie got to San Diego?
Yep, I sure do.
The Powell Peralta store?
Powell hired him, and then he gets there, and Powell, like, within days, like, yeah, I changed my mind.
Yeah. So I actually reached out to Stacy Peralta on social media to be like, I'd like to interview you for the show about the Powell Peralta snowboards.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't remember any of that. And I gave him a bit of details about Ernie. And he goes, I fucking don't remember. Then I talked to Ernie. Ernie's like, dude, everything went through George. So George really wanted to do it. He'd tooled up all this stuff. He'd mocked some things up. And on the day he went to present to Stacy and George, Stacy just like at the door was like, what is this? It's because the construction was changing from skateboard kind of 7-ply to like sidewalk
Vertical,
construction. And Stacy looked at it and goes, why would we ever do this? This has nothing to do with what we're doing.
Right.
I can't even imagine
crazy?
I can't imagine what the difference in the world would be.
Yeah.
If 1986 Powell, like peak Powell Bones Brigade, all of a sudden there's Cab and Tony, all these guys snowboard.
Oh, they were the best. They still are.
Yeah, they still
the best.
Right.
I ride Powell wheels exclusively. Like, I'll only skate Powell. Like, their formulas are the best, and they make them.
That's
Who else makes them?
Nobody.
They make their own decks. They make
right.
Their Powell's awesome.
So we'd be living in a different world had Stacy somebody said to Stacy, like, look, this is, you know, like, it had Cab been there and been like, oh, I fucking love snowboarding.
Yeah.
And then like it just was like a split second decision that then Ernie finds himself in San Diego. He doesn't have a job really.
Right. That's that's when, okay. So I, right around that, actually, that might be that is the trade show, I believe, that Chuck led it. So to get home, Shady Brady bought our booth, and then Chuck let us stay in Santa Barbara, and Ernie was with him, I think living with him.
I remember photos from that era.
I think he was living with Chuck.
When Chuck has the Chuck Mobile.
Yeah, because all of a sudden Chuck had this sidekick, Ernie, who we met, and like Ernie and I are the same age. So I was like, hey, he's like, Ernie's like, yeah, I moved out from Snow Tech, Rochester, and he goes, I'm working with Chuck now, and Chuck set us up. Fred and I lived in a treehouse for a few days. The guy was named Murphy, the airbrusher. He was the airbrusher for Matt Moore Surfboards up in Santa Barbara, Carpinteria. Yeah. But we stayed in, what was it called? Is it Santa Claus Lane, or what's the name of the? There's a little town near Carpinteria where, anyway, it was. It's one of those that got covered with a landslide, like 20 years ago, where we heard that all these people died, and we were like, I wonder if that family with a tree. We stayed in the airbrusher for Matt Moore was an up and coming famous shaper in Santa Barbara for Rincon and everything. And so Chuck was friends, and he's like, hey, Murphy the airbrusher, his daughter has a nice treehouse in the backyard. You guys can live in the treehouse. And then Chuck took us surfing for a couple of days.
Oh, damn.
So Fred and I went surfing,
and
the place he took us was the Santa Ana, was it Santa Clara Rivermouth or Santa Ana Rivermouth, I believe, just south of Rincon and all that. And
it's good.
We go out, and it's just, now it'd be crowded nowadays, but this was an off period in surfing. Fred and I paddle out and with Chuck, and the only other two surfers in the water is Kim Merrick, the #1 pro woman in the world, and her friend. And Fred and I are like, this can't be real, Chuck. Like, we're surfing with Kim Merrick. He's like, yeah, she's one of the locals here. And she was really nice. And it was kind of fun. And I was like, geez, Chuck, this is like the best experience ever. We're with Chuck Barfoot, and surfing with Kim Merrick. And yeah, it was just so good. And then, yeah, that was, let us stay for a couple days. And then we drove up, and on the way back up, we slept in our board bags. We didn't have sleeping bags. We slept in our surfboard bags, and it was pretty funny. But,
that's awesome.
But yeah, that's all. Anyway, Matt Cummins, and he ended up.
So he competes, he does well, and then Okay, so Jamie told this story at his 30th.
Yeah.
That shit goes down with Windline, and GNU in the Pacific Northwest had like a kick-ass team for sure. It did. And Matt and Jamie's kind of working here, not even riding.
Jamie Lynn,
yeah.
No, he didn't work here, but his friends all did.
Okay, so
but
was
his
he
buddies,
riding?
His best friend was working here.
I just was talking to
So
Poss
Poss was working here. A bunch of those guys were all working here, but we all were hearing about Jamie, that they're best friends. Like,
he's ripping.
The best new ripper at Barb's Rep, this place in Auburn. He's the ripper at Barb's Rep, this new generation. Everyone was worshiping Jamie, right?
So I guess Jamie was on GNU.
Yeah,
GNU tanks.
yeah, for sure. It was a GNU Vertigo. First time I saw him, he did a big old 360 air on a mogul. And I'd heard his name from Paul Farrow.
That's right. He got that from I think he got that from Northwest Snowboards or something.
Probably,
his mom bought it for him or something like that.
Yeah.
But he says when GNU tanks, Gwen says, Jamie, we got nitro. Like, you're the best. We'll put you on nitro. It's super sick. Or, there is this new company that's the GNU guys. I can't tell you anything about it.
Right.
And Jamie just goes, well, what's Matt doing? Right? Like, if Matt...
See, I didn't even know this story. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if Matt...
Gwen was one of the heads of marketing there.
Right,
I feel sorry for her. She was put in this situation
in such a crappy situation, right?
Because she was friends with us.
Yeah.
She knew us better than she knew the Windline guys, really. She worked for them, but she was our friend.
Right. And so it's her job.
We could tell she was in a tough position.
Yeah, it's her job, right?
Yeah.
And so Jamie just goes, well, Matt's going to Lib. I'm going to Lib.
Yeah.
And so the very first... I don't know anything about the very first Lib boards other than the fact that Windline had looked at the skeleton, or some European dudes had looked at the skeleton. So what happened is, that's horrible.
We presented the skeleton. Our silk screener, a guy named Mark Gale that worked. Vince Miller was our silk screener. It's called Industrial Screen Print down in Kent, Washington. Vince Miller did all of our silk screening, and one of his sidekick guys was a guy named Mark Gale, who liked to do art on the side too, and he was a good, Washington butt rocker, like all of us were. We were punk rockers and butt rockers, and so he came out with this kick-ass skeleton art that he drew. Right, he drew that, and he showed it to us as a concept. So we showed it to Windline, their marketing people, and Gwen was probably in the meeting at this time. I think, she worked for them probably at this time. Yeah, she may have just been starting, or maybe was about to start, but. They had a marketing guy named Bill McGowan, and just their sales guys. They seemed big, but there's probably 6 people at the table from their company that were decision makers. And Pete and I and Fred, I believe, I think Fred was around for this meeting. We showed him this art, like, hey, this is one of our graphics for next year. We want to do this, and we were the ones that did the graphics, right? Yeah, it was our own. But I think they had just signed the exclusive world contract, so then they knew they had us by the balls. This is what I'm guessing the psychology was. Sure. But they looked at the skeleton, they all went, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. They're like, that would be good novelty for one board, like just one board, like for a wall or something. But that's the dumbest idea ever. So anyway, when they didn't pay us, they decided to start nitro. So it was getting a little like, we were getting suspicious something was up, because they'd send guys over from Windline to watch when we were designing boards. Like, how do you draw these out and do blueprints to send to Paul A? And they would follow every step. Can we just watch? And then we went over there one day, and we looked on Bill's desk. There's a nitro. It says nitro. He's drawing a comp for a graphic, and we're like, well, what's that?
Wasn't the nitro supposed to be a nitro board at first in the GNU line? It was like the GNU Nitro.
That's what he said. That's the story.
That's the lie.
So he goes, it's a GNU Nitro. We're like, well, how come it doesn't say GNU? It's a huge Nitro. I haven't placed the logo yet. We're like, where's it going to fit? And we knew instantly. We were like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, the graphic for the other side just said Nitro 2. And it was a no-brainer. Like, Dave's not going to pay us. It's we knew that we worked with Dave long enough. I never had a grudge against Dave. He still owes us the money. I see him at trade shows. He's retired now, but I would see him at the Surf Expo over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I had no grudge. When I'd see him, it's just like, hey, Dave. That was all like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I'd shake his hand and like,
Yeah.
But no biggie. But, you know.
So there's a moment where you decide, like, you know what, let's cut our losses.
Well,
let's start.
So that check you saw.
Liberace, right
That
there.
check you saw, what happened? So they said,
$1,000
they said the
check.
skeleton's the worst idea ever.
Yeah.
And so when we decide, you know what? Pete, I, and Randy, and now Pete's part of the business now, right?
Yeah.
Pete's full-on partner. And the three of us go, you know what? Fred's going to pursue their money with a lawyer who's never going to win, in our opinion. We're going to pay off all the debt, even though technically we're not responsible for any of it anymore.
Right, but these are your relationships.
Technically, Fred would be.
I never understood why you did that, but now I do understand because these are your closest partners. You can't go to some other epoxy guy. You can't go to some other.
Plus, we just don't want to screw anyone. I didn't understand how corrupt businessmen are. Like the idea of going bankrupt or not paying someone. Like no, you're a failure if you'd go. Sure, someone could have all hell break loose and go bankrupt once, but if, say, you're someone in a high position that's been bankrupt 6 times now, and then you like lead a country, like what? Like, but my you're not a businessman. You're not a businessman, right? People he's a businessman. Like, you're not a businessman, man.
It's gonna be the president of
you're
my country.
You're excused to go bankrupt once, but for me, no. I couldn't live myself if I went bankrupt once.
Right.
We've never gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
We didn't have any money. We started with no money. We never had an investor. Even when Quick came in, they didn't put any money into us. They didn't.
Right.
We sold it to them the price of paying off our loan.
Yeah.
They didn't. Yeah. They didn't go, and here's a seed money on top of it. People all thought there was seed money.
Yeah.
Like I know Paul was going, oh, this is gonna be great with our team riders. We're gonna have seed money. Like there was no seed money. They're like, okay, now you get to use our banking.
Yes.
Right. So we didn't have to go to the bank for loans anymore. But that was it.
Right.
And literally, so we've always ran the business as business, but we're pretty good at it because we're used to not having anything.
Right.
So we're used to.
So
but anyway,
Liberace Technologies, is that what the name is right off the bat?
No. So I started building skateboards in. I was always building skateboards. I had a brand called Dead Tree skateboards.
Yeah.
When I first met Pete, I built him a Dead Tree skateboard, and he broke it. And I was like, "How'd you break it?" He's like, "I was jumping off a curb." He was just getting back into skating. He skated in the 70s. Yeah. Like 70, I think 76, 77, the era where I wasn't allowed to skate. Yeah. He was full on, him and his brother into it. Sick. And then Mervin and I got him back into it when he started hanging out with us. Like we were, and I was building Dead Trees. I was like, dude.
Mervin's a real dude.
He's a real dude.
Yeah.
He's a buddy of mine. And
like from school, high school?
No, I met him. It's another kind of long story, but I bought a wetsuit at a place by Northgate. It's called the Good Sport. It was a ski store. Yeah. Ski sailboard store back in like it was probably 83. It was 83, I believe it was 83 that I met him. And the guy that sold me the wetsuit was named Mark Monroe. He was from San Diego. And he was pretty groovy. He was like SoCal, rad. Talked with a SoCal accent. And he's like, you're a surfer? And I was like, yeah, I'm just getting into it. I'm learning. I'm shaping my own boards. And anyway, they kind of accidentally had 3 surf suits, XL large and a medium body glove for like $99 a piece because they sold sailboard gear. And so I saw it was a real surf suit with a back zip. My suit I had before that was a scuba suit basically with a front zip. And it wasn't even a one piece. It was a jacket and pants. And, and anyway, the guy selling it to me goes, hey, well, I'm from California. And he's like, want to start surfing together? When I told him you could surf here, we started carpooling. He was about 3-4 years older than me. And anyway, on our first surf trip, he's like, hey, my girlfriend's got a little brother that's about your age. His real name's Mervyn Winston Leslie III, but he goes by the name Win. So everyone knows him as Win for Winnie Winston, right? Sure. But years later, we found out for Mervyn, his real name's Mervyn Winston. So we call him Mervyn. No one else does.
Starting to get traction with that binding, really.
Put a bit
we're
doing a version
there.
of binding right now. They license
like a bent metal.
Yeah, we're doing a bent metal one, and it's called the Lightning. And I'm going to try them out. I'm going to pick them up tomorrow, actually, and they're up in our warehouse. And But
I love that you're still trying stuff
I'm excited.
out. Yeah.
But I was at Apex 2 years. Have you ever been to Apex?
Yeah.
It's my favorite mountain now.
Really?
I went there 2 years ago.
The steep mountain
it's
in...
super steep.
Yeah.
It's insanely steep.
Yeah, it's very steep.
It's like Alpental. The whole thing's like...
The rollers are like a little bit scary even. It's so steep sometimes. Yeah.
It's like rolling into a vert half pipe.
Yeah, dude.
It's super steep. I tell people that and they're like, what? Because nobody's
I've only
been there.
I've only been there once or twice.
I've only been there once. I was
Yeah.
there 2 years ago. My
Very
daughter was
steep.
dating a Canadian.
Epic groomers. Whoever
Yeah.
was grooming there when I was there, no like ruts, no like you could.
And epic.
Really,
When I was there, it was epic powder, epic
Yeah.
groomers.
Yeah.
And we were riding up the chair, my wife and I, and my youngest daughter, who's 19. She was 17 then. And I was going, wow, how often does it was over New Year's break.
Yeah.
I go, how often does it get good like this? Every day there'd be 2 inches of refresh.
Yeah.
But it didn't get warmer than like 22 degrees
it's
Fahrenheit.
cool. It's cool as shit.
So it was perfect snow. There was no ice anywhere. Groomers were perfect and powder was perfect. I said, how often does it get good like this? And it was a local guy and he goes, this isn't good. He goes, this is normal. This is average. He goes,
Right.
And he said, it's crowded right now because of Christmas break. And we were going, crowded? There's no lift line. He's like, yeah. He goes, but in a week or so, there won't even be anyone on the lifts.
Yeah.
He's like, there won't be anybody but a few locals.
That's
and he goes,
amazing.
and then he goes, January and February it dumps, and then you get more than 2 inch refreshes every day.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that
it's a
place
good
with
mountain.
POW. It would be so
It's steep
and
That-
fun.
The main chair is 2,000 vertical feet, and I looked at the picture of it online, the cartoon
yeah.
comp.
Yeah.
It looks like Mount Bachelor. It's like its own volcano, right? It's its own
Sure.
mountain.
Yeah.
And so I picture it being Bachelor, which I love Bachelor, but I picture it being
Bachelor's like
yeah,
this.
it's intermediate.
Yeah.
It's great intermediate.
Great.
though.
It's one
the
of the
best intermediate there ever is.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Mount Hood too. Mount Hood
Yeah.
Meadows for that.
Yeah,
It's just
I've never
so
been to Meadows,
great.
but I heard that's
Meadows
fantastic.
is incredible.
But Bachelor is
Yeah.
such a fun mountain.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, anyway, right on. What
Mike,
time is it? Friday?
You know what? It's probably 8 o'clock at night. Who knows?
It's probably later than that.
It's 12 midnight. And we've been recording
Is it really midnight?
8 hours straight.
Okay.
We just did a whole shift.
Right on.
8 hours and
How long are your podcasts normally?
An hour.
All right.
2.
We got.
Yeah, we got it. This is in the can.
Is it really midnight?
It's really midnight.
Okay.
Oh my God. You're gonna fail all day. You're gonna faint.
I'm gonna go eat.
All right, brother.
Yeah, I just had a smoothie for breakfast. I made that.
FNRad shoutouts this week to Mike and the crew at Mervyn. A big special thank you to Tim Lloyd and his buddy James for linking up with me at Cypress this past week. Rad to meet you both. Thank you Patreon supporters, especially the top tier guys. Your generosity is powering me through this season with no job other than this podcast. Lots more FNRad snowboarding coming this season, so be sure to come back next week. We're presented by Chris Roach and his family through Flojoy Water and brought to you by FNRad Productions.